And welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. I'm your host, Richard Lewis. Joining me as he always does, my co-host and longtime podcast partner, the esports historian Duncan Thorin Shields. Sam Bainlaw Davis will be producing this show in his imitable fashion. Looking forward to that. And we'll be talking about Counterstrike, an interesting esports scene with lots happening in it.
I've got a question, because here's the thing.
Yeah.
I know that if all fans keep asking it, they're just going to get fucking blocked from Twitch chat or whatever, right? I understand we say a lot of edgy stuff. I bet it's a nightmare to comb through the VOD. I get all that. I even understand saying timestamp's not going to help you. There's going to be some you're going to have to check by hand. But, like, the trend where we're getting the VOD out for the last episode, in not
2
enough
hours
time
before we go live.
Usually not enough time to even watch it before the next one. Like, listen,
fair,
I'm not I
week,
don't like to complain about free shit, Sam.
I've got a reasonable excuse this week, right?
Okay.
When we finished the show, literally 6 a.m. in the morning, I went to work an
True.
event after I finished it, and I got back, a day ago, after working, a 21-hour broadcast day.
Oh, were you doing that thing for
Yeah,
like the Biscuit, the Gfinity crew, or
The
whatever?
Red Bull Valorant.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, the one where it was like the whole world of Valorant or whatever.
Yeah, I literally had to like take in, I think it was something like 70 games of Valorant, trim them down to packages, ready for the final day, then 21 hours of broadcast. So yeah, I was pretty dead. Like, so this week I got an excuse, but to be fair, I've done it other weeks, so it doesn't really stand up.
Exactly. Listen, that was a great excuse until you actually had to admit, like, that is my normal schedule, though.
No, well, it's also in many ways, it's my fault because you see, the show and all of the kind of culture around it, the last few fucking months has just been so like, can I be asked? I don't even pressure Sam to put the VOD out. Like I should, me, as it's my YouTube channel, essentially my product, I should have some sort of vested interest in a time scale, but I don't. I just loathe the fact that every time it goes out, we just go back to war again, an attritional war between us. 3 Clicks Philip fans this week, Navi fans another week.
That's even, by the way, one of the reasons why I actually did notice it was late. 'Cause listen, we've had times before where it took 4 days or whatever.
Yeah.
But obviously back then it's like whatever. But I did notice if you ever open the VOD, because this is obviously how fucked the accelerationist approach to culture's become. I even myself click on it like, oh fuck yeah, there was that thing with that fandom last week. Like,
yeah, I know.
Like, you know, at the time it seems that you're being like a fucking the long war or something, but actually, like, you realize after like 4 days it is over, isn't it? Usually, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
I noticed though, you are right, dude. The depressing thing is this: I thought they were going to do what all fandoms do, right? Like, I'll give you an example. If we released some banging content, like I did that Blade interview, you know, on that show, right?
That's good.
Eventually, fans are stupid enough that when you give them just free value, they are eventually going to turn and go, oh, I like you now again. Thank you for the interview. But, dude, the Clicks Philip one is actually the line in the sand. The amount of fucking morons where that's the hill they're going to die on. Still.
Yeah.
Still.
What? They were tweeting about it me the other day, and the man himself said, are you still going on about this? It's like, not me, mate. It's the fucking brain-dead people that have a parasocial relationship with you. But as you know, mate, weirdness just fucking follows me around. Right, get this for just mate. Right. So I had to leave the house today, which has become like an existential fucking terror in and of itself because it's such a fucking scarcity, isn't it? I mean, I go out in the garden, but like out beyond that, it's like, mate, it's like some fucking apocalyptic movie. Like, you're coming out the bunker.
Later, You know, when he comes out of that hospital or whatever.
Got a gas mask on, the air's toxic, you know what I mean? You have to just go out and rustle for supplies. And anyway, I'm walking down the fucking street, right? And
someone's going to recognise you and say something mad.
Mate, I wish it was that mundane. A kid, right, there's a guy and a kid, and this kid starts screaming, skeleton! I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And like pointing at me, and I'm thinking, what?
If it's like the fucking, you know, that's like the tagline in this, like, you know, fuck Invasion of the Body Snatchers. He's only a humans. Get him!
But I'm like, what's that? And I'm wearing a Misfits t-shirt with a Misfits logo on. All right.
The classic, the
from that fucking movie they robbed it from, The Fiend Without a Face or something whatever. Anyway, obviously I'm not thinking of it. It took me a while to fucking process. The kid wants to come over and look at the t-shirt, right? Because kids love skeletons. So obviously I'm an obliging guy. I had my headphones in as well. So at first I just saw some kid pointing at me, like all excited. I'm like, you're way too young to be an esport. This kid's like fucking 6 years old or something, you know. So anyway, I said, oh yeah, it's a skeleton in it, like, you know, trying to have a kid conversation. Because again, I can't even have a conversation with adults anymore because you don't see them. It's just internet bullshit. So it's a skeleton, and then the dad starts going, I fucking love the Misfits, and I'm like, oh no, but like, I don't want that. He's trying to be friendly. He's too intense, mate. I fucking love the Misfits, mate. Just straight into it, like it was like that. It was weird, and he wanted to talk. I mean, you know, obviously static age, but yeah, they got to wait. And I was like, no, not now, not in front of the kid.
Look, we got the same Fiesta. Twinsies.
Yeah,
get me out
it was just strange, and maybe, and you know, I was trying to be nice and like hang around for a bit and like humor it, because I thought cunt's probably as desperate for a conversation as me, you know. Motherfucker's in his 40s, he's got a kid, he's wandering around town, kids screaming about skeletons. It's probably a welcome relief to the mundanity of, you know.
We left him for some fucking younger guy who was into, like, I don't know, fucking Panic at the Disco or something. You know, he's just got the kid on weekends now. Kid loves skeletons.
Yeah.
I purposely did the stupid weird pronunciation.
Yeah, no, they do love skeletons. And then he said, at the end, he said something like, he just said something like that, and he said, like, oh, and the kid likes skeletons, but I wouldn't let him listen to the Misfits till he's older. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know what's happening now, mate. I've got to go. Like,
he's right, though. I would just suggest for any parents out there, listen, I'm not one of those people who's like a mega prude who's like, don't let them watch anything on TV. You know, there's certain things that, you know, they have to be aware of in reality. But of all the bands, I wouldn't introduce them to the darkness of fucking Misfits when they're a child. Like, you might grow up a bit fucked. But this way, you're going to end up like a Donnie Darko type scenario in that situation, I believe.
So, you know, and off they went, and it's like, I just realised, like, you know, I have got one of them faces, haven't I? People just approach me all the time, talk to me all the time. The nutter on the bus always talks to me all the time. Yeah, I'll recycle Jasper Carrot's material. Look him up, kids. He was funny one time. He was big one time
back in the day, yeah.
Back in the day, Carrot's commercial breakdown. Everyone loved him. Yeah. But, you know, and so weirdness is just going to happen to me. Like, you know, and I've just kind of got accustomed to it. And that was just the 6-month cyclical weirdness. But it was weird. I still think about how weird it is. And still how weird it is that, you know, I get DMs from people about it. Like, I used to think you were the best thing ever, but then somebody else said you're not. So that's it now. Okay, cool. Yeah.
And I've lost all respect.
Yeah.
What I want to know is this, guys. Listen, I understand everything's hyperbolic on the internet. Everything's all in or nothing. But can't you just lose like 70% of the respect and give me like a 30%?
Just lose a bit of respect.
Yeah, just like a walk, and then maybe if I do a good job, or maybe if Clicks Phillip fucks up, maybe I can get back to 50. You know, let's give me a time scale here. I feel like going from 0 to 100 is too much, isn't it? You know, it's not that big an offense.
Yeah, it was just like, you know, like, why not just say, listen, I still admire your work, but I didn't admire the way you handled that particular situation. And I'd still be a cunt about it and say, well, it doesn't fucking matter, does it? Like, literally, my life is not your life. You shouldn't be invested in it in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, anyway, people who are invested in By the Numbers and my life are my sponsors that I will now plug. Sponsorship's a funny thing, isn't it? Basically, I say their name and give you a link, and you go there and you sign up because I tell you to do it. And if you do that, they'll keep paying me. So, you know, it's a great relationship.
It's like a reasonable relationship.
Yeah,
if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I like it. I like how that works.
It's like the Opcomer model where it's like, you give us $3 million, we spend it all while virtue signaling, and then can we have another $3 million that we're bored
have I got a second series?
Exactly.
Have I got a second series? So yeah, anyway, go check out. We just re-upped with them. So Sam, you still have a salary, whether or not you produce a VOD in a timely fashion.
I'll be waiting for 2 weeks to put the VOD out now, mate. You're gonna have to wait. Another year of security.
Yeah, another year of security. Now I can really drag my fucking heels. Yeah, exactly. Now I can really put my feet up. But yeah, go check them out. Obviously, go to the YouTube channel as well. They do wicked content. CSGO. There was an interview with Woxic up there today. Check that out. And obviously, if you want a VPN, you want to get up to 70% off a VPN, go to nordvpn.com/RLS. So yeah. Right then, I sort of alluded to it. It's another filler episode, Duncan. It's everyone's favourite.
All right.
We've had a filler episode because we only talk about tournaments when they're finished, so we can set the story realistically. But because of IEM Summer being divided up into essentially 2 parts, the playoffs being played.
Can we talk about that, by the way? Because this is one of the byproducts, which, listen, I'll give some credit to some of these tournament organizers. That is, to some degree, like they are trying to sort of share and play fair. Because obviously IEM and Blast and all the rest of them could run up against each other. They could just say, look, fuck you teams, pick which one you want to attend. But what they're trying to obviously do is allow all the top 10 teams in theory to go, well, at least the teams that are partnered with them. Jokes on you, ESL and Blast, because most of your fucking partnered teams aren't the best in the world, thanks to the CIS region. But here's the problem. Is this approach doing this where you have group stage now and then it's like, right, oh fuck, I can't wait for the quarters are in like a week, or like that. I know that what they're trying to do with the schedule, but it ruins the tournament as far. And maybe it's because I come from the era where you did like a 3-day tournament and you just get it all done. But like, I don't know how fans feel if they like the episodic nature, but for me, it just kills the vibe of it, especially when the teams do then go and play in another tournament. Because then my brain's like, so has Virtus Pro done good yet? Because they've got to the playoffs of IEM, but what if they then go to some small tournament, like one of those shit cops that everyone definitely isn't throwing for bets in, and then lose to God knows who, because you have to lose to a nobody to get the odds to be the 10-1, don't you? If they go and do that, as every fucking top team has seemingly done, especially the ones from the CIS region, that's where I don't appreciate you. I'm not talking about your minor there. In this particular case, like, that does sort of kill the vibe. Like, I don't get like a connective thread through it, you know?
Yeah, I think, look, we're in a situation. How much can I say about this? I guess it doesn't really matter anymore, does it? So yeah, look, let's just set a bit of historical context, because I'm writing an article, and it's going to be more than an article. It's going to be like the final esports dissertation. It's the final fuck you to esports. You're going to love it, Duncan. It's just called The Party's Over. Is the working title. And basically, you know, I'll tell you some of the chapters here, which you'll like. Starts with what esports was. Then becomes what esports is. Then the pyramid of entitlement. You'll like that chapter, I'm sure. Social media and the rise of the pleb. Where the
that's a good title in itself.
Right. Where the money comes from. The tyranny of the games developer. Emulation, not innovation, and crucially, the quest for the holy monopoly. Yeah. So obviously, and I'm just going to lay it all bare, and it's just like, this is why esports is.
Sounds good. Yeah, it's like a holistic diagnosis of the situation. Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, basically, if it was a patient, you would be urging the fucking family to let it have the morphine.
Get your order. Get your matters in order. You know, it's not going to be long.
Yeah.
I even think that line's even a good one, the title, because what it makes me think of when you say the party's over is if anyone's ever been, obviously it's me and Richard referenced here, but if you've ever been to a nightclub in the Northeast, right, because everyone just goes hard as fuck drinking, and you go to the cheapest club ever, and it's the one that's playing all the shit music, but you're so drunk you don't care about the music. And by the way, because they got those liquor licenses, like, I'm going to say, when did they get those? Like mid-2000s or something?
Yeah.
I know it was a while ago now, but to me it was like still like a revelation.
I think it was kind of just before the subprime shit went down.
Yes. So basically, instead of having to close at like 2 a.m., they could, if they wanted, stay up until 6 a.m. Right, it just made it so ridiculous, because if you ever waited till the end, you would have this experience every time where in the moment you're drunk, and music's going, there's hot girls, you're dancing, you've been having a great time with your guy, and then there's that moment where they don't even give a fuck, by the way. They don't even go like so let's have like a cool down session after like yoga. They just literally go flip the lights up, music off, and all of a sudden it's like that fucking post-nut clarity. You're like, holy, what am I doing with my life? Even as a drunk, you just go, what am I doing with my life with this person, looking at her, drinking this shit like a fucking WKD or something. I'm gonna get out. I mean, I say that, by the way, I'm from the Northeast. WKD was too expensive. I drank the cheaper Iron Brew off-brand £1 one. So listen, I'm not with your fancy Iron Brew WKD. Fucking hell. We're not big. We're not in a Witherspoons or something.
Yeah, that's where like the
esports.
The Dolman screams, "You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here." Yeah, that's
exactly. Some sort of shit fucking line that he's, by the way, is almost, he thinks he's part of the show. Like, it is my line. Let me go on, lads. The guy who also would kick your head in if you fell over.
And then goes round the corner and smashes some guy to pieces because he looked at him funny.
Reasonable. Like £5 out of his pocket because he's shot,
why not? That'll clean the blood out my jeans. But anyway. Yeah, the party's over. The party is over. It's not fun anymore. I think anyone who was around in esports in the beginning knows that it's a very different beast now, and what it's become is almost a perversion of everything that made esports good and cool. It's sort of like watching, like counterculture icons. It's like when Rage Against the Machine signed to Sony.
It's when something goes mainstream that we're getting that feeling finally. The reason why people don't think we are is because half of the joke of esports is when it wasn't legit, they kept selling it as though it was already mainstream for 10, 15 years. So that when it actually did hit mainstream, like that's the conclusion I've come to as well. Like it's like I've said on the last few episodes, it's not that like all fans have changed. There's a lot of the same types of fans. It's like you've just added in like 100,000 12-year-olds. So and so we are just Fortnite or Minecraft or any bollocks on YouTube now, and we as a result here's one of the maddest flips I've ever seen. You know when people have that theory that like the world did end in 2012, but it was only like something to do with like culture or something. It wasn't like the world itself. It was like we went through the looking glass. So I've told you there's many people like I won't say the names here because they'll be political or whatever, but there's many people where like I used to think that person's totally ridiculous, and they've got some good points now, and vice versa. One of the maddest ones ever is this. Anyone who was on the internet until about, I'm going to say like 2015, knows that the hierarchy of comments goes like this. Reddit, probably the best. Then maybe like, just a general website where anyone could post. Then Twitter. And the bottom is always, what is the bottom comment? What is the bottom comment section on the internet? See, you'll know it. What was it back in the day? Always. We're going to be on it is a hint.
Wait, because...
YouTube.
Yeah, right. I was getting.
By the way, the worst comment section ever. Like the top comment would.
I thought you were leaning into a 4chan bit here.
No.
Right.
I wasn't going that edgy. Also, I'm trying to be at the top, surely. No, this is old. This is before the looking glass, guys. So the joke would obviously be right. I'm not joking. YouTube's now the best of all those. That's not even trolling. YouTube is the best. Reddit got literally ruined by politics and astroturfing, which is absolutely what happens even on the esports subs, by the way.
Yeah, of course,
Richard's described it with how the mods work and how they have discords and stuff. It's just astroturf to fuck. Twitter is now one of the absolute worst. I think Twitter is now the lowest communication. Twitter's become what YouTube was, because YouTube used to just be someone saying a stupid thing that didn't make sense. Now a top YouTube comments usually like what's mad is if it's like a political video, it'll actually be like sort of like it'll give you hope again. Like someone will nail it. That's all bullshit. He's not telling the truth. Like, whoa, fuck. The people actually know something. And Twitter and stuff is terrible now.
What a staggering coincidence, by the way, as well, that Twitter is the business, the techopoly, the tech company that leans into essentially delivering whatever it is journalists want. Journalists, American journalists and American thinkers and media figures, I'll say, to sort of be a bit more expansive. You get your little blue check, don't you?
Yeah.
And basically almost every major improvement Twitter has implemented has been around, sort of placating their fucking ire and anger about other people being able to go and do other things. Coordinated attacks on Substack, coordinated attacks on YouTube, coordinated attacks on almost any fucking communications platform, even Discord, because anything that reduces them as being the arbiters and deliverers of the daily truth must be destroyed. And Twitter absolutely leans into that. And leans into it with aplomb. And so, I agree with you. I think Twitter's a fucking hellscape for those particular reasons. And YouTube has become an actual, like you say, almost like a haven. But it won't be like that for long, because YouTube keeps constantly being altered and changed to make sure that can't be the case. But anyway, back to the party being over. Just for a bit of history while we talk about this weird calendar thing that's going on right now. Because I don't know if people saw the report, but there was like a statement put out by ESL and Blast saying we're going to work together now to not have any...
I know where you're going here, because I'll give everyone the spoiler. A naive fan, because this is the purpose of propaganda, would go, brilliant, Richard, that's exactly what I want them to work together. It's like, if you know anything about people who are enemies in esports, the only way they work together is to fuck everyone else.
Yes. So what has essentially happened here? So basically, this is history repeating itself, because nothing in esports is original. We had a very similar situation involving MLG, DreamHack, and ESL back when DreamHack was a separate company. I want to say this was in 2013, 2012, around about
was
then.
Was it 2015? Which one are you talking about here?
The one where, because MLG ran a pay-per-view StarCraft event over the top of an ESL event. Yeah.
Okay.
Basically,
I thought you meant the ESL exclusivity, like the one where it was like, face, it was like...
No, we'll get... Yeah,
okay.
I mean, yeah.
This is outside of CS then, yeah?
Yeah, so, yeah, basically what happened at that juncture was they they released a statement that said, we're going to work together for the good of the esports ecosystem, and we're going to ensure our events don't overlap to serve the fans. Now, I've sat down with everyone involved in that decision, and privately, and talked to them all privately, all the owners of the companies, because I'm good friends with all of them, or was with Robert Olin at least, up until his descent into American political madness. Yeah, basically, they all said the same thing. That was just a public statement we put out because we all realized we were all getting wrecked by the negative PR, and none of us had any intentions of honoring that at all, because we're all individual businesses and we must be the ones that prevail. So when I saw this statement by ESL and the Blast, we're going to work together nicely, and we're going to have a nice fresh calendar for all of the fans, I did have a little chuckle to myself about that. But here's the reality. They are being massively pressured to get their shit together by the teams, who are increasingly becoming disenchanted. And especially where CS is involved, I know there have been numerous top organizations that have said...
They're leaving, I'm guessing, yeah.
They've said, like, look, we signed in to, like, whether it's the Louvre agreement or a Blast franchise partnership, we can't be caught between two worlds, because it's wrecking our players who are spending, especially in the North American cases, they're spending an inordinate amount of time in Europe, away from their families, away from their lives. And we're at a stage where if we can't get this right, the ROI just isn't there for us to persist. And we'll just not have a CS division, and that'll be the end of that. So
that's rich. That's fucking rich as a former Flashpoint employee.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, you guys told me you chose the better deal. Enjoy. This is what you chose. This is literally what you chose. What people never understood, I still think to this day, Richard, is I never, ever told people that you must take Flashpoint. I never even said it's going to be better in all these ways. My point was just this. Make the other case. Make your case as to why ESL and Blast, and the way they, business as usual, make the case as to why that works. Now, what I don't understand is this. A lot of the teams who didn't go the Flashpoint route, basically, some of them even openly said this, and privately, a lot of them said this to me. They were like, you know what, I think we can still handle where the salary is at. I still feel like the circuit, it's still, it's still manageable. It's going places. I love the way in esports it's always like this, Richard. What they really do in reality is they don't actually take a temperature check and go, where's the situation at? What am I doing with my career? They just look at the people around them. You know this from the fucking American ones especially. They look at the ones around them and they go, right, I'm in the right pay group, so I'll just keep doing whatever they're doing. Whatever they're doing must be right. The second one of them starts leaving, this is why we made the point about Valorant and about ESL letting NA die. The second they start to leave, though, it's the old cliche of rats off a sinking ship, isn't it? Because they'll all be gone. Now, basically, it has to be their way, or they're going to go. They're just going to go into those shit games.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, Valorant is obviously a big factor, because before, if a team, an organization, basically said we're going to drop CS, you would go, well, for what? And they would go, you're right. Okay, yeah.
Even Sinister do that. They can sort of keep some of the players in theory as well, because they can obviously. A number of them have taken one or two players over to the Valorant team.
Trust me, it's a very cost efficient.
That's the most dangerous part to me.
Yeah,
that you can sort of even keep the player on contract. You don't have to break it and pay him off or anything. You just bring him over.
So that's now a consideration. But obviously, the other aspect of this, which is where I was going to, is the ultimate desire to fuck Flashpoint in its metaphorical face. Yeah. That's what I like, how we chose different ends.
I went sort of like Jay from Jane Silent Bob approach.
Yeah, like a human centipede kind of thing. But yeah, basically they're I mean that's a given. That
the way actually come to think of it, Bob from Silent Bob in many ways, he could be Blast, couldn't he? He's just the silent one. He's trying to do his best. But then the problem is you've got ESL Jay. He jumps out with his amazing offer. Hey, baby, you ever have your asshole licked by a fat man in a overcoat? You know what?
Yeah.
That's what you chose, Mouse Sports Fanatic. All the rest of you can't so enjoy.
Yeah. Straight fire reference. Love Clerks. So yeah, it's like one of the things that I am really tired of and it's certainly an issue in CS is that they always talk about how robust it is and how it's the best game to be in, and
it's the best viewer experience. It's got the history,
there's
and
so
then they just go to the other games. Yeah,
and there's no, but not that. I mean, like just how there's all these opportunities to be had in our incredible game.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's all fucking lies. The reality is, having a CS team in general, especially if you're a bumbling incompetent, which does describe approximately 70% of MGO owners and management, it's very hard to monetize that one in particular. It's rock and roll, but it's not down with the kids anymore. It's like, it's Led Zeppelin, right? But it not Led Zeppelin. When they were Led Zeppelin, it's Led Zeppelin on its like, hey, we're still rocking after 20 years kind of tour. Yeah, they're still fucking Led Zeppelin, but it ain't like being there in the 70s. So you've got that kind of cultural problem to like overcome while, all the Zoomers want to play fucking, whatever it is, fucking Fortnite, Apex, Overwatch, this litany of pretenders. A lot of them will eventually graduate to CS if they truly appreciate the medium of FPS games and shooter games. But the bottom line is this, that every time we build something in CS, it comes with the understanding that no one has the confidence that there's enough room for you to build something of similar size adjacent to it.
Yep.
We don't want that. And because Valve don't give out building permits, you can do whatever the fuck you want, build whatever you want, wherever you want. You don't live under a tyranny like you do in fucking Riot World, right? So people build stuff all the time. And then immediately that dread sets in and it must be destroyed. Now, listen, I've had no issue with Flashpoint particularly. Except their lack of ambition, I would say.
Yeah, of course.
But I feel teams massively let them down. I also feel, just in general, I don't know how many times I can sort of keep turning a blind eye to the just general incompetence of certain people. Which where I stand on that. I'm from a world where if you're incompetent at your job, you don't have your job for very long. And yet in esports, that certainly doesn't seem to be a rule at all. So anyway, so basically what has happened here is ESL and the Blast realize that ESL has the turf, but Blast has the good fucking yayo. Because Blast is exciting. Their sponsor activations are interesting. The talent is unique and different to the ESL talent. The production is better. It kills ESL hands down now, which is incredible when you consider this is what they've done in 3 years.
Sure.
And their first event was an unmitigated disaster and a hodgepodge of ideas that couldn't
And all
work.
the Blastralis period where it was all the best of ones. Yeah, they look like they'd never be at this level, mate. They've leveled up so quick.
Exactly. And now you ESL are the fucking little finger of esports. They know now is not the time to be fighting Blast. That they can basically make an alliance, and if they keep them sweet, they'll bide their time before they go, why did you trust me, Ned? You know what I mean? It's going to be like that, right? So Blast probably know that because I don't think they're stupid people. But unfortunately, that comes at the expense of everybody else. Everyone else will be utterly fucked now. Not by the Blast, who don't strike me as being particularly proactive in their aggression. Certainly, again, I understand why they're doing certain things from a business perspective. I don't think it's the best for the ecosystem, but they have to play a little bit like ESL if they're going to survive in a world dominated by ESL. That's just the nature of the beast. But unfortunately, what we're going to increasingly find out is, because I'm with you, I think Flashpoint goes under next year, or they shut the doors and say, well, it was another brave project that just failed, Great ideas, so brave. So many good memories.
They'll just blame. I guarantee now they'll just blame it on all the lockdowns and stuff and go, "Oh, it was just the wrong timing, unfortunately." Even though, by the way, that had nothing to do with some of the things they could have done. But that'll be they'll just find a way, as you say, to not only like waltz out of it, but they'll try and make it sound like it was a positive thing. I mean, it wasn't, since it brought a bunch like a few $1 million and stuff like that. But I agree with you, it's one of those ones where like the failed ambition is so staggering. It actually, to me, it will always leave a bad taste in my mouth the way this project went.
Oh, yeah. No, but again, what you have to understand is as well that we keep saying these things can be built and these things can work, and it just needs the right people and people to agree and people to sign up, and we all go along and we do it. And then these things fail, usually in less than 3 years. Over and over and over again.
It's basically to draw back to the point you've made about a lot of the North American owners, that they want to play the game on easy mode and they want to do what the others do and they want to be in a cartel. Basically, they just want the best North American owner to tell them what to do. That's why they like the LCS. It's like, if I just sort of follow what he's doing, he seems to know. He's like, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. So the problem with that is this. What I learned from the Flashpoint experience and other tournament circuits that have come along and tried to do things innovative and new is all that happens is this. Every single person at every level of the industry, Valve, fucking the team orgs, the players, they all eventually reveal through their action, never mind what they say in their words, that their choice will always be, I'll stick with the one bird in the hand than two in the bush. Like, they always go with that. They always go with that mentality of, I'll just stick with what I've got. And so all ESL does, which I'll at least give them credit for, it doesn't mean we get a better product, is ESL just goes, right, they made their initial move, but we can easily just sort of take them. We can just destroy them. So why don't we just copy all the shit they've done that's good, put it on our broadcast and our show. In fact, you know what? We'll even do some of the things they're doing in the industry. We'll give our talent freelance contracts. We'll allow them to actually be like normal humans who can just sleep days and stuff and don't have to be a slave in an office. Let's do all these things, only because we're forced to, by the way, by competition. And then we'll just eventually get the monopoly. And what my worry is this, is I think a lot of people, this is why I've come to the conclusion it's so depressing, is I used to think that like the fucking technocracy would be like imposed top down. Dude, they've done all their work. All the work was just social programming. Kids today, and this includes players, because most of them are bloody 18, 19 years old, they want monopolies, Richard, because they think of monopolies as like, well, I want a McDonald's everywhere because then I can get me nuggets. And it's like, yeah, but then eventually, mate, if there's only McDonald's, first of all, the quality of that food will go to fucking zero, the price will go infinite, and they will just do stuff like you'll have no variety in life. You'll only have this one monolith, and it'll be a fucking nightmare. So sadly, they won't know it until they've trapped themselves in it, like everyone did with Twitch and all the rest of it. Like, by the way, you know how funny it all seemed when everyone was like, I don't want to not watch Twitch. Well, it's hilarious now. Twitch doesn't pay anyone retainers and doesn't give everyone proper fucking money and wrecks all the little creators and, keeps VODs for 24 hours just so no one on YouTube can have them. Like, that's hilarious, isn't it? Isn't that great to have less functionality in the scene? Like, that's where we're going. People, and the worst thing is people are going to cheer it on, mate. Until it's the bitter end, they'll cheer it on.
Did you see what they did today, actually?
No, what was this?
Well, technically yesterday, maybe. Anyway, yeah. What happened was, right, Facebook had announced that they were still persevering with Facebook gaming.
I didn't know that was a thing still, mate. Okay.
Yeah, and what they were saying was that people had stream on the platform. They weren't going to take any of their money. They weren't going to take any of the cut for the next 3 years. And when they do move towards taking a percentage, it will be below 30%. Now, anyone who knows, obviously, if you're an entry-level streamer, when you're allowed subs, unless you have a special deal in place, you're giving up 50% of your subs.
Which isn't necessarily unreasonable in the sense that, like, they are giving you the platform. Like, you don't pay. It's got like it's sort of like a partnership initially.
But in the same day, Facebook announced that Twitch decided to remove the option to log into Twitch through their Facebook. They're completely uncoupling.
I love how petty they are. I love how
all of these companies are like that.
They can't hide it. They have
all
to
of these companies are like that, and they'll pretend that those two things are unlinked. But of course, in my experience, games developers being the worst, tech companies being just behind them. The level of petulance and sort of the hubris of these people is actually staggering. But anyway. That's why all of that's going on right now, and that's why IEM Summer's kind of like, divided up. We've got a Blast event obviously coming, and everyone's pretending to play nice for the foreseeable future. Irrelevant, because as I've said, if the major doesn't bang, and I've got every reason to think that it won't bang. It might, as in, it'll be a good event, but the viewership numbers, that's the metric by which we're going to be judged, as all things in esports. And Valorant already boasting 1 million for their Icelandic clan. We have to come out strong and go past 1 million. And when you consider the record,
we have a problem, dude, and this is one that fans haven't thought about at all. Basically, I'm not joking. If I'm PGL, and by the way, listen, I love PGL as a company. I love some people behind it. There's some of the most legit people. But the problem is, by definition, where they are from and their funding, they have to do things a bit more on a budget. They have to be a bit smarter. They don't have money to waste, right? So of all the times where the person running the major isn't someone who can just splash le cash, this is unfortunately the worst one, because I'm not joking. What's going to actually fuck CS in that sense is, look at LCS, got all these banging core streamers. Look at Valorant, had all Shroud and that doing it. Mate, unless Shroud decides to watch the CSGO major, we don't have any streamers like that. We don't have a streamer like fucking LS or Dom in League of Legends that can just rack up 50k, 100 viewers like that. Easy. We don't have those people. Like, if I'm not joking, Simple's going to be playing in the major, hopefully. So he's not going to be able to stream it. So who the fuck is going to stream ours? And then you're all going to go, what about clicks? That's not going to get the 1 million viewers. It isn't. I'm sorry.
Well, that's where Gowlers will enter the equation. But then you get into the whole...
He's doing that shit the way he's doing like the NBA now or something as well. So what's good about him is if he's enough of a cunt, it'll just fail upwards, mate. It'll work out.
Well, yeah, but I also think as well, I mean, like, there's certain countries, certain language streams that people like. Basically, if Overwatch is padding their stats with Chinese numbers, we're probably padding our stats with
We're doing ours with Brazilians and with Russians. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, it's what I mean. It's all
it's
all a game. Everyone plays it.
But every fan who still thinks the business of esports is directly linked to how good your team is in the server, the way I'm going to have to break it to you, there's going to be a black pill that you're not going to recover from. You're probably thinking, stupid MIBR, not keeping O plano. I'll tell you something that's going to make you quite upset, guys. They basically get the same viewership, enormous viewership, by the way, 200,000 for a match and stuff, with any fucking player. Doesn't matter if it's Cold Zero or Fallen. Doesn't matter even if it's KNG or V. It doesn't matter. If they put any Brazilian player in an MIBR jersey, I'm not joking, they get viewership. And by the way, they get more viewership than like the big European teams who are really good. It's actually mildly depressing because it just shows that, like, I mean, what business are you even in there? It's more like WWE at that point in time. It's not even about the product necessarily. It's like just how many people watch and how you market it. Like, you want obviously it to be related to how brilliant the teams are, don't you?
So what we'll do here is we'll pivot into just wrapping up the last of the RMR stuff, and then we'll just see how we go along. I'm not going to have a long show today. I'll spare us all. Seeing we started a bit earlier.
Maybe we do this. I don't know for irony, but we have had some episodes where we had to like cut the viewer questions. Maybe just get like as many viewer questions to add on the end as you want, Sam, and we'll just see if we can get through a bunch just to make it legit,
So the first big story, we didn't really talk about it on the last episode, even though it sort of happened, was obviously FaZe. In fact, no, I'm going to hold that. Let's do the RMR stuff first. It makes more sense. This CIS RMR was a fucking disaster. We covered it extensively on the last episode. There's been a little bit of additional stuff happening. And basically, the long and the short is nothing's going to come of any of it. And we're still waiting on a statement from Valve, which I think will be coming any day now. But yes, there was an open letter from all of the teams, apart from Akuma and Muriels or whatever the fuck they were called. But basically all the major players at the CIS RMR, they said they wanted Valve to launch an investigation, which I don't know if they've been paying attention to the last, all of the years of Counterstrike.
That's my trigger word, investigation, right now, mate.
Yeah. Valve don't do investigations per se, do they? Yep. They don't have a division for that. They don't have staff for that. What Valve do is they look at evidence and make a determination, but they don't dig into it. And I can say that
basically be in their face, right? If you put it completely in their face, they can't turn away then. But if you say to them, here's a breadcrumb. They're not going to fucking follow that up. They're not some like mad fucking film noir PI. Like, I'm on the beat.
They see and hear everything. I mean, one of the misconceptions about Valve is that they're not listening. That's definitely not true. They fastidiously.
I always just thought they don't care. So
Yeah, they fastidiously watch loads of content because Valve as a company, it's all data driven. It's like that's what they do. They make decisions based on data, based on information. And sometimes we're not privy to a lot of it. That's why some of the decisions don't make any sense. They also tend to think almost dynastically, like take Gabe Newell in a recent interview saying, as far as he's concerned, creating an anti-cheat that would just instantly ban all cheaters is an easy problem and will be achieved. Will be achieved within 8 years, because he's thinking in 8 years, with all of the data they collate, they'll have an unbelievably sick AI that can tell instantly from your mouse movement whether or not you're a cheater. That's what all efforts now are being driven into.
Isn't that like the human version of that, Richard, where they go the micro movement? Like, listen, as soon as you start doing that,
but the difference being, I'll trust the machine over some fucking pleb who's got a tinfoil hat on, thinking you and me are embroiled in some big conspiracy because there's so much money in esports and what we do. So anyway, so when and like he probably didn't realize how that comment would be mocked and derided in the community, because to him 8 years to build an incredible piece of software isn't that's not long at all, right? So this is what I mean. People don't really understand Valve, and therefore when Valve do, this is also why they elect to say nothing a lot of the time, because when you say things like that, and you're saying that to a 17-year-old who goes, but I want it fixed now. Everyone's cheating in my game. That's why I'm in Gold Nova, because there's no point. They can't conceive of what someone like Gabe Newell can. So anyway, so they do follow everything that goes on. Like, I was shocked when I got an email out of the blue from Valve saying, we watched that like 6-hour stream you did where you said competitive CS was going to die. And you said that we'd stop responding to your emails. So we just wanted to check that this was still your email. This was the channel. So like, yeah, okay, sound. And so that really surprised me. And I asked them, I said, did you watch it all? And they went, yeah, every second. And I was like, okay. So they do. They see every Reddit thread. They see every piece of content. They see every article, but they just will not go down the rabbit hole of forming an investigation, assembling a team, digging. No. If the information is there, they'll make a determination and they'll make a ruling. And I think when you talk about the CISRMR, it's clear. Well, a few things are clear. First of all, it's clear that any sense of competitive integrity around that tournament is compromised, and no matter what anyone says about it. But second of all, you absolutely cannot prove Akuma cheated, and until you can't sanction that team. Yeah,
it's what I always said way back about Flusher that people never got. Is what kills me is because people have just watched too many movies, and in the movie you always like one of the things I've always thought is shit about the way you can tell a TV procedural or a detective show is bad is they consistently rely on just tricking the guy in a confession to just confessing the whole crime. Like, first of all, half of those wouldn't hold up in court, and then secondly, mate, so you mean he would have got away with the crime basically if he didn't just admit it at the end because you tricked him into thinking, I thought you were dead. Oh my God, and I've just said that. Like, basically, what people don't get is this. As I've said many, many times, if Flusher did cheat, it is like a heist movie. Congrats, you got away with it, mate. No one will ever be able to catch you. There's no way we can go back in time and gain evidence. And without hard evidence, by the way, I think it's wrong to ban some of these people because there always will be that line. There's always the benefit of the doubt, right? So I agree. There's nothing to investigate except for maybe betting, and even then, that probably won't come to the players nowadays. People probably put it in crypto or something. Like, there's a million abstractions because of the iBuyPower scandal that you can sort of get away with this shit in there.
Yeah, and so like Valve, as I say, Valve obviously know what's gone on here, and they're gonna make a determination. I don't know what that'll be, but then on top of that, there was an interview on HLTV with the Russian Esports Federation, and they basically said like that. We did fuck up with the Go TV. We sanctioned the person who leaked it that we know of. But really, all tournaments are a bit of a shit show, and there aren't any good options. And then they also said, if anyone's got any hard evidence about Akuma and what was going on there, we'd love to hear from you. But that's it. I don't see how this can be sort of fixed now. They're just going to have to learn from it. I say Epicenter should be disqualified from ever hosting an RMR again, at least for a period of 2 years. I would stress Valve not to work with them, because my gut feeling is it was there is a conspiracy here, and that conspiracy involves people that were either close to or directly worked for Epicenter. Like, that's I don't give a fuck. I'll just say it. That's what my gut is telling me. I haven't seen a million. It's all irrelevant. It's all academic. It can't be proven. But it does seem to be very strange to me that a team that had huge underdog odds, but also was happening to play the big name teams, which, by the way, could be a contrivance of the tournament structure itself. They're the ones that are suspicious. They're the ones that have these weird clips of people looking as if there's something like up in the top left corner of a monitor. They're the ones that outperform, and then when allegations of improper behavior are made publicly, they suddenly become shit and can't get double figures against teams they were handily beating the day before. The whole thing stinks to high heaven. The fact that these data platforms exist and have, like, I was talking about it on stream the other night. For those who don't know, if you didn't watch the stream and you just watch by the numbers or whatever, to ensure live betting and to show betting integrity, you have to have a 0-second delay live coming from the server so everyone can see what's happening in the server. What goes out to you, the punter, is on a delay. So when you're placing bets live on what's going to happen, it's already sort of, it's already going, like, to all intents and purposes, you're watching like the 90-second to 2-minute delayed version. And that's if you have access to the stream with no delay, obviously things happen ahead of time from anybody else, and therefore you can make a killing on certain things. You can use it for cheating. You can use it for rigging outcomes. You can give it to an underdog team so they beat an overdog team. You can even use it to, as some MDL teams have by streaming on Discord. You can even use it to basically bump up the odds that are updating live while you play by making it look like you're going to lose. Like, you go 11-0 down, 12-0 down, you turn on the fucking radar hack, essentially, and you batter someone with a comeback 16-12. And, of course, all your proxies have placed bets at that lowest point.
It's almost like stock manipulation, basically.
Yeah, essentially. So, basically, and that was going on in StarCraft, years ago. That's why I know about that anyway already, before it was going on in CS. But, so the bottom line is, it should be hard for people to get that kind of stream, have access to that data. But because everything in esports is fucked up, it isn't. It's very easy. If you happen to know somebody, you can get it. People, like rogue employees inside these betting data analytics companies, sell the stream to a member of a crime syndicate. It's like it's become a real fucking murky world, and no one has any interest in fixing that problem, so you're just going to have to live with it. But certainly this RMR, utterly compromised, whether you think anything untoward happened or not. All the apparatus were there for it to be manipulated for the purposes of betting and match fixing. And as a result, I hope that when Valve do make a determination, we're going to see like points, point reductions maybe, or everyone gets the same points, or just something like that. There has to be something that addresses the inherent unfairness of the event. And that's the only thing that's going to satisfy anyone about it.
The only problem with that is, though, like, as you say, mate, because there is no hard evidence. Like, listen, this is where, again, fans, and I don't blame you, you're just not journalists, so you don't understand what we're talking about with these terms. I don't care how, in the same way as it doesn't matter how suspicious Flusher 2014 clips were. Without the evidence, you can't ban him. So it doesn't matter how many times someone looked up in a weird way. To me, yeah, I think they were cheating. I have no evidence, though. I would never convict a person on that. What if they literally are just looking at any old shite? That's the problem. You cannot know, even if it's beggars belief. That's why you have to have the presumption of innocence. So my problem is this. I couldn't even really, aside from like, we tried spitballing some on that Four Horsemen episode. Maybe you take the points and you roll them over, or you give everyone equal points, or you run it again. Like, the problem is there's not really, it's one of those ones where it's so fucked, there's no good solution. Every solution has some negative attached to it.
And I'll also just add, they, funnily enough now, they called for ESIC.
What, Epicenter?
The teams.
Oh, the teams.
Now, you may recall certain regions not wanting to recognise E6 authority, so I thought that was funny. I'll also just add this as an addendum. I've become a bit disenchanted with
I'm
E6.
pissed off with that whole thing, mate. Don't ever go out there. I'll tell you something, right, in my career that has served me so well is, let's say you're a fan of man, right? One of the best things about being a fan of man is you just wake up one day and the content's there. You didn't know what it was. You didn't know it was coming, well, unless you're on my Patreon, I sometimes like tell people in advance, but like in general, you see it when it comes, and as a result, there's no failed expectations because you don't know what to expect. Everyone in esports does the opposite. They go out there on their fucking media tour, bragging about what they're going to do and what they want to change and what has to be done, and then they never fucking deliver. Yeah. Or they deliver like 40% and they think, job done. It's like, mate, if you're going to be the governing body of CSGO, already an insane premise when we don't have the sort of acknowledgement of the TO, the game dev rather, and you're just hoping people opt into your system, you must hit your deadlines. You must deliver on the goodwill of the people, because they had so much goodwill, Richard, after that coaching scandal, where they did do good work and they actually let us check some of these fucking snitch bitch coaches and actually make some of them actually have to wind their fucking neck in. And then this MDL thing is a fucking joke. They've pissed all that goodwill, all that consumer confidence is gone, mate. Now it just looks like it's ever coming out. And if it is, who's going to give a fuck anymore? How long ago is some of these things going to be from now? Like a year ago or something? It's going to be ages ago.
Yeah, and look, I think the problem they've got isn't it's not a competence issue in the sense that that they know what they're doing around the investigation aspect of things, but they're just massively understaffed. And what
an enormous task they're trying to take on there.
Well, yeah, but this is the thing. It's you've got if I say I'm gonna fight this fucking heavyweight boxer. Right, I might want to do my own work on his records. Might want to do might want to watch a few videos. Might want to train. Have a trainer, have a gym. All of these things in place. I don't just come out and declare, I'm gonna beat Mike Tyson. But what they've done is they've said we are gonna fix the match fixing in CS and esports, and then they've gone, oh, everyone's doing it. Everyone, think about the stories. It's become blasé, Duncan. It's become so blasé match fixing that we had an entire league in China, League of Legends, shut down because it was so widespread. No one gave a fuck about that. It was the LPL. No one gave a fuck about that. It even embroiled a player who said he was coerced into doing it, who happened to play on the current world champions. He's been benched and suspended for 4 months for cooperating. We're still none the wiser about who coerced him, how. We'll never know. We're never going to find out. That was just that story, not a ripple, by the way. Not a ripple. It went out on fucking .esports and even Global and, got a front page Reddit thread. That's
how was let me ask you this. I've said it many times about the Overwatch League viewership. It is the conspiracy of silence I can't handle, mate. If esports is truly adjacent / overlapping with the mainstream, as by the way, we're supposed to believe when TSM signs a huge deal for a name change or that, how come those stories make it to the mainstream press? But as you say, essentially the biggest League of Legends league, arguably the biggest esports league in the whole world, having essentially it sort of being exposed that if you pull on the thread, the whole fucking thing might come collapsing. That's not even a story. I mean, listen, I know part of it's the fucking it's the invisible force field of China doesn't look like anything to me. I know that's part of it, but even so, this is why people have got to stop with this angle. The most genius move that elite, rich people, powerful people did was convince plebs, who for plebs, everything is about money because you need money just to live, that they only do things for money. So what a pleb thinks is, yeah, it might be corrupt, but they're only doing it to make the most money, right? If the business of journalism was about money, everyone would be on these stories because these are the fucking bombshells. These are the viral stories, guys. But for some reason, people who, by the way, are desperate for money, they're not doing these stories. They're doing some bump-kiss, stupid story about social stuff.
You know, you have to laugh at all the fucking hack gamer journalists.
Yes. Where are they? Think about them. Even the ones, by the way, who I gave credit to, who did expose Riot, for example. Yeah. Okay, now turn your lens to this. Nothing
I was going to say specifically, right, there was a load of them that ended up, you know, on that merry-go-round of 6 months here, 3 months there, you know, publications folded, or they just found out to not be very good. All they do is rewrite tweets.
Most of
the
ones are obsessed with us, mate.
Yeah, and a lot of them ended up at Fanbyte, which is funded by Tencent. So good luck with that, you know. Yeah, we must fix all the problems in esports. Good luck writing a story about anything negative around China, Chinese organized crime, Chinese match fixing, Chinese cheat development. Enjoy that, right? Enjoy working there, and doing that incredible, vital work. But then we had, mate. There was the DPC. There were teams suspended in Dota.
Yep.
Right, again, barely a ripple, or they were just small shits. By the way, that game, and right under Valve's nose, that game is one of the most compromised.
I've no doubt.
Right,
China was in that from day one.
We still haven't had a statement from Valve about the newbie players.
We'll never get that one. I'll tell you that right now. That just goes without saying. Come on.
But it's what I mean. Like, this is all in like the last 18 months.
Yes.
It's like how can it be this blasé that we just turn a blind eye to it? And I think about the sort of creeping, seeping poison of you know, everything's gambling money, all these sites. I think about how I desperately knocked on doors, metaphorically
You're lagging
speaking.
a bit now. I could hear you for some of it. Wait there a sec. Wait there a sec.
I heard if it's just your camera and lag, but you seem like you've come up now.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Back in the game. Just add this message in. I will now apologize to the Chinese esports region in Mandarin.
I will now just come to a new press conference with John Cena and LeBron James, where I will explain that everything is cool and go back to sleep. America, China's in control. The problem with that is, I hate it, by the way, when, you know, the conspiracy people are doing like a shit podcast that has 1,000 views and they have some lag and they go, the man that's trying to stop us. The problem is, what the fucking timing on this one? What's the timing on that?
Oh, mate, it happens every time. It's a running joke. Like if I talk about China on stream.
You listed like 4 things about China. It's like, right, he's hit the 3 threshold, shut him down, hit the kill switch, shut it down. Like that guy in fucking Dark City, shut it down.
Good reference. But anyway, so yeah, match fixing's become blasé, and I just think about, you know, how I was telling all these betting companies that all these people are fixing matches, and they went, yeah, what can we do about it though, really? You can do anything. You can do everything about it. You can stop it. You can report it to the police. Yeah, but we'd have to like check. It was surreal. That's not like one company, by the way. That's like multiple betting companies dropped that on me. Like, yeah, we'd have to like look into it and stuff, you know, and what if we found out they were, and then, oh, bloody hell, we'd have to send an email, and it just doesn't seem worth it for the small pittance we're losing, really. It's like, fucking imagine how much money these companies make that they're just willing to be stolen from, essentially. And it's not just them. It's also the fucking outrageous arrogance of that. Because it's the bettors that get robbed.
Oh, of course. Their own customer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, you know, and it's like, I go back and forth on the betting thing all the time. It's like they're the only people sponsoring esports now. But as I was talking about yesterday on my stream, I think back to having a meeting with like a betting company one time. I used to do odds for a sports book for esports, Counterstrike source tournaments and stuff through a relationship we had with Cadred. And I remember talking to a betting company, and they were like, of course, esports, it is like shit to us, but we want the kids to come in and stay, and they will bet on football, and they will bet. Yeah, yes. Right. And you start realizing all esports actually is for all these big companies. It's not just betting companies, it's TV companies, it's media companies. It's just a gateway drug. It's just a way to reach that 18 to 24 juicy demographic.
Yeah,
disposable income up the ass. Everyone plays games. Everyone's interested.
Sports.
Yeah, and they don't. Yeah. And they don't watch sports. They don't play sports. They don't watch cable. Right?
Exactly.
That's all we are. Because we were the new hotness. People, we have become the gateway drug to corporate greed. That's what esports is. So. It's very cool.
It's like I said on the last, I can't remember if it's the Four Horsemen, the last episode we did of this, but it's like I said, whenever you keep bringing up the conflict of interest scenario, people don't get it who are fans. It's not that the TOs people go, well, yeah, I agree, there is conflict of interest, but nothing I can do about it. It's not that they go, oh, fuck, that's really bad, I wish I could do something. What they actually do is this. Me and Richard come along and we go, there's conflict of interest here. No one's listening. There's a load of conflict of interest. Look, here's 3 instances of conflict of interest. Here's why it matters. And what everyone in the room except us does at the party when the record stops, the players who were involved in conflict of interest, the team all involved in the conflict of interest, the fucking TO involved goes, why rock the boat, mate? We're having a good time, mate. Everyone's getting back. Look, have a cocktail, have a fucking hors d'oeuvre, enjoy yourself, man. That's the vibe in esports now. It's not that they can't stop it, that they won't. It's that they genuinely think, as you're saying, it's like, look, I'm getting mine, so fuck it, who cares? Even though, yes, as you say, who's the one person who carries the can? It's the person who enjoys the end product, it's the fan. The fan's the one who just takes up the arse. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and mate, I've had that conversation a bunch as well. Like, what, is there a way we could just get you to, just relax, just be a bit more on board? Maybe we could fund a project for you.
That's one of the classic ones, isn't it?
Yeah, I've had that so much. Like, just, Richard, why not just shut up about this? Well, yeah, all right, okay, fine. All the games are meaningless, and criminal overlords are laughing in your face.
We really enjoy when you do tweets that are sort of scathing, but provoke the industry and hold people accountable, put people's feet to the fire. But could you just not do it during our event with our teams? Like, you obviously don't appreciate the deal. What are you talking about?
So yeah,
just don't press people in my speakeasy. That's all I ask. Hey, have a drink, a double.
Cheers. So anyway, yeah, we'll get back to the show. Cold Zero. Let's just talk about that. I mean, the RMR
this is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what? I'll set this up for people because we're going to get into it in a second. Let me do this one actually. Basically, what's happened is it's announced that Cold Zero, I mean, they claim is benching himself and is now going to wait out a phase contract and leave. So now you learn the way. This is why I actually low-key love that interview he did when he was forcing Uzo out of MIBR. And he was just an absolute cunt to everyone. Because what Cold Zero has done is just shown that, like all the other big ones, Fallen, Fur, Taco, motherfucker, why is it when they succeed, they throw away everything they believed in and what made them great men? Why do they do it? Because he's about to do this with FaZe. He's one of these guys where it's like, brother, you're taking W's all the time in your career, making more money, more fame, and you always present it that you're like the beaten wife in the relationship. It's always everyone else's fault, and you need out immediately. Because essentially, if people don't know, this is the key piece of context. Months and months ago, way before Carrigan actually joined, the whole reason that was even in the pipeline, Carrigan might rejoin FaZe, was obviously, by the way, was a blockbuster move. Like, that's the team he was fired from years earlier, and he had to work his way back. And supposedly, when I exposed a lot of that stuff about Nico, people thought most of the people in the team wanted him out, and the org wanted him out, which is Nico's claim. Now, the interesting thing about what happened was Cold Zero basically said, he didn't say the name, but because the rumor was already out there, Carrigan might leave Mouse and go to FaZe. Cold Zero effectively said, I want this guy to come in, not him by name, but you could tell who he was talking about. I want him to come in as the in-game leader, which was obviously very spicy in itself. Then obviously there was the bit where they got twists. So all the pieces were looking like this could be a really exciting team. This could be a world number one if everything goes, if everyone's in great form. Now, obviously Cold Zero himself didn't play very well, but the worst thing about this story now is, like, I actually feel like in some ways is almost going to be like the psychic relief point for FaZe, mate, because if they didn't do this, they looked like they were just stuck in some nightmare hell rot that would just go to the major, and they would go to the major and presumably not get it together, and the whole thing would have been a waste of time. This almost feels now like it's starting to make sense. If the guy's going to bench himself, I'm starting to get a sense of what some of the issues in this team were, mate. I'm getting a feeling of why it didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, look, do you buy that as a story?
I do and I don't in this sense. Like, I can believe, as I've alluded to, I do believe he's got an ego big enough that he would maybe do that. Like, well, I'm just not playing anymore since the results are bad. I'm going to wait out and get out of this place. But I also feel like that sounds like, and this is why I'm going to throw it to you on this point. That sounds like one of the ways that I learned to read between lines in PR statements. Here's the thing, right? If you're a shitter and you join my team and you're nobody, I won't just kick you. I'll basically tell everyone I'll kick you. I'll even tell them I kicked you because you weren't good enough. If you're lucky, I might use a euphemism like you weren't experienced enough or you didn't fit the role or something. That's if you're lucky. But I'll almost dunk on you because you're a shitter, because I want fans to not think that you chose to leave. But if you're the legendary player or you're the big name or you're the guy I like, I'll let you write your own story. I am kicking you. I don't want you anymore. In fact, you know what? You're way overpriced. You're not worth it. Maybe you're even causing problems. But you know what? Fair enough. You did your yards. You were a company man at one point. You can say you're choosing leave. It was your choice. Yeah. Just like when they claim, you know, the classic one, my favourite of all time, is people who by definition never did their schoolwork and were trying to just be an esports pro. Go, I need to focus on school. And then a month later in a different team. Like, that was the old version of like the fake PR.
That's a classic.
I only half believe this one. Part of it feels like someone had to go and he's just the right one to pick. It's a bit suspicious that he was also the guy playing bad. Come on.
Yeah, listen, I'm torn on this one. I mean, first of all, I'm just going to say this. I don't believe he benched himself. What I think's happened... I don't believe
any top player would really bench themselves.
No. Here's what I think's happened.
Their egos are too big.
Is like, right. So you've got all that hype around, you know, Carrigan's coming back to FaZe. And look, we're going to give him some cool new toys to play with his twists. Boom, right? Like, fucking job done, right? At that point.
Absolutely.
You know, what was staggering to me was, like, every time I've talked about FaZe, because I do videos over at DeSerto as well, and they're called Richard Lewis Reacts, the series, right? So obviously they're reaction videos, and then people complain and go, look at him reacting to things that are happening. That is the whole premise. It's an old staple in sports. But, you know, I said to FaZe, about FaZe, that I think the fact that they were losing all these games, crashing out the tournaments early was really, really bad, and they've got, like, big problems. And when Carrigan's doing interviews and going, yeah, I like to just fuck around and experiment with teams for a year.
That was fishy. Yes, that was very fishy.
A year. Grow up, mate. I know your career as well as you do. Yep. That's never been true. You never had to tinker with a team for a year to get the best out of it. You always hit the ground running.
Mate, if anything, that makes me ask, again, this is why these people, I'm sorry, get fans, in the modern day don't tend to do interviews with people like me and Richard. The instant follow-up, if you're competent there, goes like this. Why would you need a year?
Yeah, why? Exactly.
Because if you're saying, give me a year, mate, in any normal team, I'd say you're cheeky to say, give me 3 months.
Well, I think in this current state of the game, I don't think you get 3 months. I mean, look what happened with Cloud9.
Cloud9's the obvious example, right? Yeah.
You know, so like, and like I say, fans baying for blood every second of every day with Cloud9. FaZe, on the other hand, I think because of Twist's like popularity and everyone seems to like him, you know, they're probably a bit more entrenched in the idea that it must work. Now, I think Carrigan is a problem solver, and I think what happened was coldzera wanted to work with a top IGL, wanted to, you know, wanted to get that vibe again that he had with Fallen in the good old days. A master tactician who was going to basically micromanage everyone outside of the server, and in the game it was all going to come together, and it was just going to be synergistic magnificence. It was just going to be like something like these people had telepathic bonds, and when the game plan fell apart, you were all brilliantly and individually talented enough to sort of carry it over the line anyway. You know, see, you know, the jumping up and all the other mad historic moments that Brazilian roster had. And because Cold Zero was so integral to that, I think when his relationship soured a little bit with Fallen, and indeed everyone else in the team, I think he's been looking a little bit pining to have that type of relationship again. An IGL that completely believes in you, completely respects you, but also knows you so well that they're not going to let you fall into your base instincts, as what was happening at the end of his tenure with MIBR. Or I'll call on some maps, I'll do this, I'll do that, you know. And I think he saw Carrigan as kind of being that guy. And I'm sure Carrigan was relishing the prospect of working with someone like Cold Zero. I realise this all now sounds like a fan fiction, but fuck it, I'll ride it out anyway.
Something to that,
and then they fucking kissed and adopted children and rode off into the sunset and lived happily ever after. But no, back to CS, right? What I think has happened is Carrigan's looked at all of the problems with the team, and basically all roads lead to Cold Zero, and he's tried to ride it out as much as he can, and the results aren't there, and he's had to do the unthinkable, which is the guy who was his biggest advocate, biggest champion, the guy who called for him specifically to be in the team, who's been told, sometimes you've got to be careful what you wish for, because I'm in this team and I think you fucking stink and I think you're the problem. And Cold Zero was the problem. And yeah, he's been, and I think he's been told, like, because you've been a fantastic servant and you're a big name and you've still got a big move in you and you've still got good Counterstrike years left in you, we're going to say you're benching yourself, and it's going to set up another deal. I don't know where Cold Zero goes next, by the way.
That's the hard part, isn't it?
People are saying all plan up, no chance.
They don't even have an org yet, you dumb fucks. He's not going for $0 salary. Why are fans still like that? Where they're like, you should just join this team that makes no business sense at all in a game where people only care about money. Like, that's not happening, is it, you dumb fuck? Here's an angle that people haven't thought of that you spurred me to think of there. The reason why I even think it's plausible that Cold Zero thought he wanted Carrigan and then found out, actually, I don't fuck with this at all, and could be the troublemaker, is because, first of all, even the brilliant part you described of where he worked with Fallen, you notice in that team, they used to all, except Fallen, go out of their way to stress Zeus, Tackle, like, but Cold Zero does like 40% of the calls as well. And I always used to think, why do they have to go and do that? Bearing in mind the IGL's a legend. And like, maybe if the IGL chooses to venture that info and go, well, actually, Cold Zero made that call. And, you know, he's a brilliant player in his own right. And he knows a lot about the game. But here's what I don't think Cold Zero got, is if he's going to take prime Fallen, who, by the way, was taking nobodies when Cold Zero wasn't even there, to top 8 at majors, back when nobody used to make top 8 at majors unless you were like a fucking elite European team. If you're going to take that guy and go, you know what, it's cool what you've done these last sort of, 6-7 years, but I think I'm just going to say my own shit when I want to. That works if you're the best player in the world. If you're the best player in the world, people will go, right, you know what? If it works, in fact, you might even be right. Maybe you can call around yourself better than we can because you're better than us, right? The problem is, it's been many years since Cold Zero was that monster. And I think personally, I know, again, people are going to say this is a fanfic because we're speculating about their mind states. But if you know these people, and especially if you know their philosophy on the game, then you can draw these narratives. So I'll give you one, right? In my opinion, the reason why after MIBR he went to FaZe is because that was where it's like, right, well, fuck IGLs then. You know what? I don't need an IGL. You know what? Me and Nico, they say we can't IGL. Together we'll be the IGLs. He's my mate. Well, you saw how long that friendship lasted, didn't you? One of them just fucking split immediately. Like, what is that? So then basically after that, you're right, he goes, right, so I do need an IGL after all, right? Well, tell you what, that Carrigan calls a good loose game. And if we get a load of fraggers, maybe we'll get that young Twist, who, by the way, I've heard him admired for like having mad aim and stuff. They're the players I want. What someone like Cold Zero is going to have to learn eventually, it's a hard fucking lesson if you were a superstar player like him, is, mate, you're part of the reason in all these breakdowns that the breakdown happens, because you're the only connecting factor. You're the only one. These are completely different teams, mate, on different continents. There's no players that are the same. And I have to say as well, I've heard from a number of people who've worked with him, players and maybe people who were his coaches, this is one of the main players who was resistant to coaching. This is the guy where if he thinks he knows best, he'll let you coach the other guys. You weren't coaching him though, mate. It's that thing of like, well, I'll take your request on board and consider it. And then you just do whatever the fuck you want. So I also feel like if he's not playing amazing and he isn't fucking with the VAR, you can't rein him in. You've seen this. He cannot be reined in. Dude, they couldn't even rein him in an IVR. When I still think to this day, even though in a movie it would have been a cool scene to do that interview and just shit talk all your players, objectively as a business move, it was stupid. I know you fans are going to go, no, it wasn't, because he got out in the end. He got out almost at the 12th hour, and basically by making FaZe pay through the fucking nose because of stuff like that. Because he pissed off the people who not only fed him, but had his fucking life in their hand, his org. So if this guy's going to do that to his former teammates he's won majors with, coaches that he's worked with, orgs that have done loads for him, everyone that he comes across, it never's good enough. It's always their fault. Mate, this is a dark path. It doesn't turn and get light from here, I'm afraid. It just gets worse.
Yeah, and this is what I mean. It's like, I don't know where he ends up playing now. I mean, there could have been a world, and there still might, reading between the lines, there could have been a world where maybe him and Fallen can mend fences and he ends up at Liquid. But I don't think now.
I don't think now, but one reason it's not impossible, though, I would agree, is coldzera still has going for him. This is the one thing you've got left, mate. And if you're listening, really think about this. It's not your game, because I've seen your game. Your game hasn't been there for years now. You were decent before. You're not the monster, though. This is one thing you've got going for you. You've still got that status that Fallen had, which is that all the players you beat for years and years and years, they'll give you a chance, because they still think in the back of their mind, like they all do in sports as well, like, well, I want him on my team finally. So I agree. I put it this way. I reckon the American team Liquid players would say yes. I don't know if Fallen would. That's the point. Yeah. Maybe Fallen chooses this is
the reason why I think it could still be a possibility, right, is I was doing the NARMR, and we did an interview with Stewie right at the end when Team Liquid won. And he said something and it stuck with me. I've been meaning to reach out and get clarification, but I just haven't had time. I've been busy, and it's like he's probably been busy as well. He's like grinding away in FPL, looking sick, looking the best he's been for years. So don't want to put any bad juju in his head, you know what I mean, by fucking like asking him like, oh, what did you really mean with that interview? I have a tendency as a media guy to overanalyze shit anyway, so I don't. Okay. But he said something where we were talking about his play style and why it was good again and why he came out to being an IGL and all these questions. And he basically said something where he sort of singled out Grim and said that he didn't think he was there yet as a player and didn't think his decision making was always the best, and that's why he was doing more of the entry work again, because he didn't know if Grim was sort of capable of it. And it was just like, it just stood out as strange that after a pretty good performance from the team, and I would add, Grim was great in some series for them. I thought it was kind of weird that he singled him out. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility in my mind that like they just say, listen, Grim, you've had a great, year or whatever it's been now with Team Liquid. You've stocks increased. You've proven you belong at this elite level competition. But in the same way that Nork got wrecked because Device was available, we are replacing you with coldzera. You should feel good about that. It's that caliber of player we're replacing.
Stewie is absolutely one of those players who to this day like worships coldzera.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I won't betray any confidence, but put it this way, even when you as fans would think he dropped off, he thought coldzera was fucking amazing still. Yeah. I'll just say that, put it that way.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I mean, I think coldzera is past the point of being able to be a star player. But I think if you put him on a fucking team with like Naf and Elige and Stewie playing like this,
player, mate. Yeah, he's going to bang, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But I actually just realized when you were talking about that as well. Another telling thing, because I was going off like obviously private information. There's actually some shit out there in public. Like all you need to know is Yanko, who's now back to being an analyst, so he doesn't have to worry about coaching and fucking players' egos. When this news was announced, FaZe bench coldzera, he said. In the tweet, he said, seems like the issues that plagued our team persisted even after Nico and myself left. By the way, Yanko was coldzera's coach in MIBR. Can't say I'm surprised, but I'm sure this will benefit FaZe in the long term. Then, he could have left it at that, by the way. He then went out of his way to put a reply where he put, Cold can still play on a very high level. Hopefully this situation humbles him a bit and he comes back refreshed, whether it's FaZe or some other team. Peace sign. By the way, the peace sign at the end, that's almost like when I do the beak face, like I write the most evil shit ever, they're like beak face. It's just a head joke. Or is it? Joke. Like, mate, like when he put that line there, Yanko, listen, he likes to banter. Yeah, obviously he'll have some fun, but when he says about a player like that who he's worked with, that they humble themselves publicly, Yanko, by the way, is like the number one guy running defense for Nico on every single topic. So if he's going to call it out, there's another person I know he respects. That's actually quite telling. I know it sounds mild, but that's actually fairly big to say something like you need. Hopefully, it humbles him a bit.
Like the reason that obviously Yanko's a good friend and we've loved working with Yanko and have always been advocates and champions for him at every stage of his career. He's just one of the realest motherfuckers you ever meet in this business. In a business of fakes, that he's the guy who and also even people you like who they're not fake, but they are political in the sense they know how the machine works and they know how to operate the machinery. Me and Duncan don't like the fucking machine. We'd rather it wasn't a machine. We'd rather it was a beautiful biomass that was self-regulating. That's the vision we have. But the vision a lot of people have is they go, no, it must be a machine. It must be. But Yanko just doesn't fucking fuck around with any of that stuff. He's just like, listen, if I want to say something, I'm gonna say something, and this is what I'm saying. So I always knew coming out of his time as a coach, especially the MIBR phase of his life, I knew him. I knew how he got done. Obviously. Yeah, we couldn't say nothing about it at the time because it's like the immediate assumption would have been he was crying to us about it or whatever. But he got absolutely worked in that org, like secret meetings, fucking conversations in Portuguese. What are you saying? Oh, nothing, Yanko. Don't you worry about it. We must replace this dickhead. Mad shit. Like
like the joke is, they keep saying something in Portuguese, he doesn't understand, but then they keep saying the word Yanko, obviously, and then Yanko, and then Yanko, and then he goes, "What are you talking about?" And then they go, "It's football." It's like it's almost the joke of what it's like in those teams, isn't it? Because they forget that like one word does translate.
Yeah. So anyway. It's interesting. The question now becomes, of course, who joins FaZe. So I think we'll spend a little bit of time on that.
That's an exciting prospect, I have to say, though, because
they were memeing on Rops.
Listen, the problem with that is, I'll tell you this. I just did a video on this topic.
Yeah, so yeah.
The problem is this. I know everyone's going to go a bit, now Spurs just run Flashpoint. Listen, that tournament wasn't very stacked, and no one knows if they'll ever repeat that. And by the way, a spoiler, Mouse Sports is just never going to be the team with enough money to pay all the teammates to give Rops a team like FaZe Clan. I know in your brain it goes, but FaZe is worse than Mouse, so because if Rops joins FaZe, they become better, you dumb fuck, and Mouse becomes worse. Do I have to explain basic addition and subtraction to fucking cunts?
Not to mention, every player, right, like whatever you think about FaZe as an org, and certainly how they handle the CS division.
Oh, they treat players super well in terms of money and everything. Take care of them.
Once you join FaZe, your socials blow the fuck up.
Everything, yes.
Yeah, you get sick content made around you. Suddenly, the Zoomers who probably don't even necessarily understand why Rops is a good signing, know any of your history. Now they're, I love Rops, and they go out and they buy a fucking t-shirt and they do this with their hands and they fucking buy an energy drink and fucking chug that, and then they watch you on a stream and sub to you, and being at FaZe for a year as a player, like it's a tantalizing prospect, especially for a guy like Rops, who we don't really know all that much about, do we? He's quite a quiet, unassuming guy, but seems to have a good sense of humor. FaZe will get wicked mileage out of someone like that, and he'll come out of it much richer, both obviously, metaphorically and certainly literally as well. Like, Mouse Sports are an org that know how to survive. They've been there since the early days. They're like, I don't want to say Gen 1 org because it's not true, but they're definitely a Gen 2 org in terms of the history. And those orgs are now few and far between. That kind of heritage.
Going this long.
Yeah, exactly. And they've done it by, certainly in 1.6, they looked out because they had that amazing generation, ends tragically with the death of 6. But also when German EPL in Source was big, they got in that. They were a team that knew how to leverage international talent. They did everything. They, at the start of Go, if you remember, they had a UK lineup with popular players, right? So Mouse Sports know how to survive, and one thing they do with all of their players, Mouse Sports are the team that developed Nico. Remember, he was their super sub.
Some of the best scouts and flippers in all of CSGO. Literally,
Yep.
Just look at the history of the org; it's unbelievable.
But what they do is they put all their players on, right? First of all, not particularly great salaries within the context commensurate to ability. I think Nico's said that pretty much as well in an interview that I watched years ago. But just in general, they're good salaries. They look after their players, not disputing that. But they're not mega bucks. It's not like an American team owner. What do you want? 30 grand? Is that the start? That's how they open up negotiations.
Unless maybe you're like Carrigan Robs, basically. But yeah, if you're just one of the normal players, you don't get anywhere near that. No, of course not.
Yeah. And they also put them on massive buyouts. And remember, like we're talking Nico million. Back, and that was when it was.
Dude, I've got a quick question for you. Quick sidebar on this one. So in my video, I revealed that the buyout is, let's just say roughly 1.5 million. It's about that for Robs, right? And so many people have inquired that, like, I don't blame Mouse Sports. If I have like that many teams wanting to buy you, and I know he wants to go to them, I just sit there and I wait for whoever says the number I want. And when you say the number, you can have him. But here's what I want to ask you. Loads of fans, because I put it in the title of my video, their main dispute, Richard, was this. And I can't believe this is a real argument. So I wanted to check, like, I need a reality check maybe.
Okay, I'm here for you.
To me, what I can't comprehend is that Device is potentially half the cost of Robs. Now, a fan, because they're morons, Richard, go, but Robs has all these years still of his, like, that's not even the case. Like, Device is in it. As far as I'm concerned, that's why actually the one angle of the Cristiano Ronaldo analogy that worked was, I mean, he's a little bit old, but if he'd been like 3 years younger, in theory, he is still like one of the most insane goal scorers. He's a guaranteed box office. He's going to make you win. It's like, it is almost like a no-brainer signing. So of course you pay the most. But the idea that like Device costs less than Robs, and maybe significantly so, something's off about that. Something is just off with it. Yeah, fans were going, personally, I think Robs should cost more. It's like, but what angle though?
Yeah, I don't chime with that because
I don't think anyone should cost. I'm not joking. I actually don't think genuine anyone should cost more than Device. I know this will sound mad, but like for example, Simple, if he's not going to a CIS team, there's an issue there. Who knows how he'll work with English? Ziwu, he's a fucking like, isn't he like a young French guy who's a little bit weird? Like in my opinion, Device on paper, he's like the #1 free agent. It's like that story where if Aaron Rodgers was going to leave the fucking Green Bay Packers, well, yeah, on paper he was just the MVP. So of course he's the most eligible free agent. I mean, aside from the fact that deal costs a bomb, but like in theory, everyone should want you know.
Well, to put it in context, when Brady signed for the Bucks, you know, think about what they were getting there. Yeah, you're getting the GOAT, but you're getting the GOAT at the end.
Yeah,
I mean, and like not even the very end. Like literally,
I mean, in
nobody knew.
He could have literally got injured the first season and been fucked. Yeah, of course.
And let's also be real. He had his start to the regular season was shaky.
It was a bit dodgy. Those Saints games were nightmares,
Yeah, and people were scratching their heads and wondering, because when he signed, it was a 2-year deal worth 50 million.
Yep.
Think about what that does to your salary cap, right?
They went all in, yeah.
And what did they get? A fucking ring. Booyah. And that's why I would agree with you. I think you're fucking... like, right now, if I'm looking at all of the major money signings I could go for and spend, like, top dollar, 1.5 mil, 2 mil, 3 mil, whatever insanity, you know, these buyouts are, the only one I think that's even comparable to Device, because, yeah, I agree with you. Simple, we saw from his time in Team Liquid, who fucking knows how that pans out. Yeah. Ziwu, who knows how that pans out when he doesn't get his mother's cooking or whatever, you know what I mean? He's just a kid. He's sick, but we're already starting to see, now that X-Taz is having to rebuild vitality, he's starting to struggles, isn't he, right? So there's that. So yeah, I agree. I think they're incredible signings, exciting signings, but signings that have a downside. With Device, there isn't a downside.
No, there's no downside.
Now, the only other player I would say is sort of comparable to that, and there is a downside, but the downside to me is sort of like, whatever. Nico, yeah.
Oh, it has to be, yeah, of course. By the way, as I've pointed out a million times, I don't know why we do this, because again, it's essentially you're just trying to appeal to people who are by definition unreasonable to be reasonable. We've always given Nico his fucking due.
Yeah,
Even when he was the biggest cunt ever, if he was good in the game, we still said he was good. I agree. He's proven he can work on all his international lineups. He's always stick. He always gets his. Like, he's just another proven quantity. I agree. The problem is this, right? And by the way, in my opinion, another factor I should have said is Device is also like an AWPer who can just do it all himself. AWPers are what the game's about right now. Again, Rops is a rifler. I know everyone's going to go, he's amazing. I agree. But here's the problem. If you said, right, you can have Rops for this much, or you can have a Liege for half. I'll just take a Liege then, okay? Like, you know, it's fucking 1A, 1B, who gives a fuck? The problem is, again, who can replace Device in that regard? It's a very limited group of people, isn't it? So, in my opinion, I don't know why fans went with that angle. But anyway, to get back to it, you think Rops actually goes to FaZe? Do you think they pay the money, basically? I think it's going to be really expensive.
Here's what's interesting. Despite my assumptions around the org, FaZe continues to commit to the CS division.
Yeah, respect actually on that.
And I'll give them mad respect for that. Because
power play moves.
Yeah, because my assumption was that they would be one of these other orgs that were out the door with all the other part-time, pricks. But not only have they stayed, they're not doing it on a budget. They're not they're not doing an envious. Here's 5 cunts you've never heard of repping our. You were major winners a few years ago, man.
Yes.
If you, the owner, are gonna say wearing the jersey doesn't mean anything, even though only a limited number of people will do it in history, then why the fuck should I care as a fan? Right? You completely debase your own brand when you do shit like that. So the fact that FaZe don't do that, I'll give them mad respect. I don't know who's behind those decisions. Obviously, I've been critical of FaZe multiple times. I will continue to do. They've done a ton of shady shit, and they've been associated with shady people. But when it comes to the CS division, I love the ambition. They've been mustered, and I love the continued
Real Madrid type team or a PSG. Like fair play.
Yeah,
yes,
right from the start. But that ambition has never dropped. Carrigan's a huge signing. You don't need to follow that up with twists to make a point. But they fucking did. And now what? You're going to drop Cold Zero and probably go and get someone else. So the FaZe for me are the only org right now I think would stump up the cash to bring Rops to the team. But
there's one more, I believe.
Who was that?
It's only in this condition.
Yeah.
I don't think it's impossible. I've alluded to it before. Maybe they might try and sign Glaive. I think the only other one is G2 because it's the same thing. It's about the vision. It's about not saying, will this make any money sense now? It's basically for me, and this is why I say there's a condition to it. If they really thought they could get Glaive or Rops, say towards the end of this year, like close to when the either Astralis contract runs out or when Rops is close to his contract running out, you can get him cheaper. They only do it, though, in my opinion, if you actually believe it makes you number one. If you believe it makes you, if it's like the one that puts you over the top and Carlos can go, and now I'm a world champion in CSGO, which, by the way, would be an insane feather to this guy's boat at this point in time. If you can do that, I think maybe they also stump up. But I agree. In a world where I've complained about all the Flashpoint owners and people in CS who just go for the cheap signings over and over again, even Astralis, some of the fucking names I've heard they've been asking, they don't care about that brand, Richard. They don't care. They don't respect their own legacy. They don't treat themselves like a championship org. So I have to say, those are two of the only teams in the game I sort of have faith in their ambition, which is G2 and FaZe.
Well, just on that point, I'll say something that might surprise you. And I know Carlos watches the show, so I'm going to just say this. If you have a chance to get Glaive or a chance to get Rops, don't. Don't do it.
Why?
What they've got going on right now with their team, I've watched a lot of G2. They are so close to greatness. I think, actually, they're the surprise package heading into the second half of 2021. Okay.
I mean, they are really good, but they always just let me down that last little bit. Always that last little bit,
Yeah, no, I get that. But that last little bit, and I know it's not a science that it has to go.
I get it.
And you have to get over the line. They're going to get over the line, I think. I've been watching them. What they've managed to accomplish in getting Nico and Hunter to the level they're at, they're getting really good mileage out of Jack still. I don't want to see him get dropped again. I'm loving what he's doing on the team. And I'll just say what was unthinkable 2 years ago.
Amanek is a revelation.
Amanek is a revelation. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's not even a joke.
No, I know. It's like, it would have been the fucking dumbest thing to fucking say.
Oh, respect.
2 years ago.
By the way, how cool is that storyline? In a world where people have just tried to still stack star player after star player, what was it that made G2 work in the end? 2 fucking role players who just do their job and have no ego.
Yeah. But yeah, and look, what the difference now is, I think, right, with Nico, what you have to do is you have to essentially sell yourself as a player in his brain as being good. You know, you have to make him buy into you. And I think he didn't do that initially, which is why he was like, I'm going to up, I'm going to lead, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I think he's realized now that actually, like, what I've needed all along isn't to surround myself with fucking 4 amazing players that I rate personally.
Yes.
It's actually to be around role players that'll do selfless things and give me the platform to perform. Now, I still think as well, I don't think you've seen the best of Nico in G2, probably at
There's
all.
still a game left. There's still one game left, I think.
And I think when that clicks, I think when he goes up to that gear, I think they're going to be fucking lights out. I think they're going to be absolutely thermonuclear. I think if you bring in a Glaive and you drop Jax again, you put Glaive in, and you have to completely redo it, you're not back to square one, but you're pretty fucking close to it. And I don't think Nico and Glaive will fucking get along at all. Known Lucas a long time. I don't think Nico is going to appreciate his leadership style at all.
I will say that's one of those ones where if coldzera should have been careful what he asks for.
Yeah.
Nico, if you actually think you want Glaive, you don't, mate, because here's the thing. Glaive will do to you what Happy did to Shocks, where everyone knows, as it's like my classic line I told Happy to his face, everyone knows about a star player egos, mate. What they don't know about is great in-game leader egos, because guess what? To be a great leader, you have to have a fucking ego of your own, because you have to go, I'm right, no matter what the game tells me. Even if the last 4 rounds what I called was wrong, it was right, we just didn't do it right, so we're going to do it a 5th time. That's like, yeah, I agree. I don't think fans get this. I know everyone thinks because he just looks cool and he's a fucking sick player that Nico's some like, oh my God, he must be a dominant force. He's like a bully. He can only bully the weak people or the people who believe he is that. Someone like Glaive, I'm not joking, would boss this cunt. Would just boss him, and he'd have the whole team on his side. So I sort of agree. I just think on paper it's one where if you can't see looking at the names, it's like, how can I not do it? You know, it's one of those ones, you know.
When this Astralis team finally breaks apart, what's going to be super cool in the next like 2 years is hearing all of the wicked interviews and like documentaries about Glaive and those players who worked with him being candid about what he was like when he first got in the team and stuff. I'm privy to that. I know that. But yeah, I think it's going to blow people's minds because I think people because how
it's the power of friendship, don't they? They think, oh, he's just the cool guys.
They think it's a fucking anime, but Glaive will melt your fucking face off. Like it's no joke. Like do you remember when people lost their fucking mind when Sean Gares was right? Who's this lovable guy, good-looking, clean-cut, and there was that clip of him going, "Why haven't you put that smoke? Who's bought the fucking smoke?" And it was like nothing because he was like high and he just forgot to buy his smoke or whatever. And everyone was like, "Wow, Sean Gares must have been tilted." No, you fucking morons. That is the Sean Gares in the server. That's why he got results every fucking team he was at. That's the level he's on. Like that's not an anomaly. That's not an aberration. That's the standard. So. Yeah, I think it's interesting. A lot of people will fucking, you know, they'll have their eyes opened, but I'll tell you, it won't be Nico. So that can't work. And if you're talking about Rops, then yeah, that's exciting, you know, but I think Rops will end up taking space away from what Hunter and Nico are doing right now.
I don't think he makes sense in the team, I agree. No. But again, it's if people want to just do a Galacticals, don't they, and stack all the names.
Yeah, so no, that's almost like fantasy football shit. It'll get you points, but it won't work.
The problem is this one, right? And this is where I don't think coldzera did know what he was wishing for, Richard, if he was asking for Karrigan. Mate, Rops is a better version of you, coldzera. Rops is you like 5 years ago, mate. You even fix your role. He's a sick lurker. Like, if I'm Karrigan, not only have I just worked with him and won championships, and he stayed good, by the way, during the bad period, if you remember. He's the only player on Mouse who did. But even better, I can just plug you in a coldzera's spots and fucking get everything.
Yeah.
So I hope that move happens, I will say. I really do. Just for the game and everyone involved, you know. Like, Rops has done, by the way, Rops has been more than loyal. He re-signed with Mouse when it was like the beginning of the online era when actually they were starting to become shit.
Yeah.
So and he's been a loyal soldier. He's done his time to get paid and be one of the best players in the world.
Him wanting to move away, right, was one of the reasons why I was like, well, this team's not going to work because eventually he's going to go or he's going to be demotivated playing with the golden handcuffs on. And you can't do that to him. That was why I was saying I think Dexter's took another one of them like poison chalice jobs. It sounds great. I'm going to get to work with Rops. Yeah, but for how long? But credit to them. Not only have they turned it around after a pretty fucking pedestrian start, you know, Rops has actually got back to like tier 1 form now. Maybe that's because he's in the shop window. I think it's the opposite. I think he's realised that maybe the move doesn't happen because no one's going to pay the buyout right now.
Seems like it, yeah.
But put it this way, I want to see Rops. Right, he's done his time on Mouse Sports and playing at that level.
One thing to say very quickly is, by the way, respect. That's one reason Rops has his head screwed on right, and he doesn't have a massive ego. Because what you're talking about there, I've just pointed out with Cold Zero. When the player does want to move and he knows the deal's not happening, the number of them that it doesn't matter that they get paid 20, 30k a month, they'll act like a petulant child and they'll do 60% in the server. So the idea he's come back to peak form. What a fucking G, this guy. And by the way, that's the best way you can sell yourself. I'd be even more horny to sign if I'm one of those teams now. I'd be seeing that and get that $1.5 million now.
Yeah, for real. And like, you know, he seems like a real good guy. And so I want to see him on a true, no disrespect to Mouse Sports. I recently put a video out there saying how much I respect their run and everything they've done, and credit to Dexter. I hope to sit down and interview him one day because he's not a guy I've ever interviewed. Maybe that'll happen. But, you know, at the end of the day, I want to see Rops on a truly great team. I want to see him rubbing shoulders with elite level players and seeing what he does. And I think he deserves that in his career. I hope it happens for him. We'll stay on Brazilian teams and Brazilian orgs and Brazilian players having a move. Furia dropped Junior after the RMR in what was unfortunately the most predictable move.
It's obvious as fuck, wasn't it?
Yeah, and here's what I want to talk about on this because I love Furia. I think they're a great fucking team.
One of the most entertaining teams in the game.
Great to watch. Like that Keserato Yuri pairing is amazing, but then you just sprinkle a bit of art on that, and he's just running at you and doing mad shit, hyper aggressive. You gotta love it, right? And unfortunately, for whatever reason, Junior wasn't the player he was, you know, post Triumph when he went there. And when I interviewed him at the RMR, I realized he was like he was such a lovely, down to earth guy. And I was of course on the stream going, he's fucking shit though, and and it's like it's a bit rough. It's the unpleasant part of punditry. But he said something as well, saying that like, you know, they were all been really super nice to him, the teammates. They were all trying to learn English so the communication could be better. He was learning Portuguese. They were trying to meet in the middle, meet halfway. But he said it was in the game. Sometimes they'd instinctively call something in Portuguese. And while he was trying to figure out what it was, he'd get shot in the side or his crosshair placement himself. And it's just one of those things that evidently, with communication being so important in a team game, it couldn't work for whatever reason. I hope people don't judge him too harshly, because he definitely looked a better player like that in Triumph. But I always have a question.
We saw this from Stewie 2K and Tarek. Like, people forgave those guys when they came back. Again, it's trying circumstances. Yeah.
So, you know, but I'll just say this. He received some of the most outrageous, because it's always, you know, comedic to me that the Brazilian CS community always talk about xenophobia and how anyone who criticizes any aspect of
let's go ask Myron about what xenophobia is like, shall we? See if he has some thoughts, you know. And that's one of the reasons I can't believe, by the way, that these foreigners joined the Brazilian team. It's like, mate, look what they do to Brazilians. What do you think you're going to do to you, mate?
Yeah.
You're going to be the whipping boy.
Yeah, especially as an Argentinian, you know, which has the great fucking football rivalry and other things besides.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, Mayon was absolutely crucified, and it got little support from his teammates, actually, if we're being honest about it publicly. There was a couple of posts, don't lay off him, he's just a kid. There was that one where they attacked ESL for like saying, can we get Cold Zero back? But, you know, but that was more about them and not Mayor. That was their
exactly.
Yeah. But some of the abuse I saw thrown at Junior was outrageous. Like, you know, he's a fucking gringo. He's an American. He doesn't play the Brazilian way. He doesn't understand the Brazilian style. He's not learned the language quick enough. All Americans are dumb and stupid. And it was like, fuck me. And this was just like the Twitch chat on the games where they were winning, you know. And then in that interview, he said, the good thing about not speaking Portuguese is I don't understand a lot of the hate messages I get. And I thought, oh, mate, that's rough as fuck. That kid's had a tough time.
That's not even glass half full. That's like, at least I've got a glass.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a glass. It's filled with piss.
I'm like, what? How's he found the light in that? Fucking hell, mate.
Yeah, so he's a good kid, and I hope he falls on his feet. But this wasn't the team. This wasn't the move. He didn't play his best either. He knows that. But here's what I'm going to say. People were calling, while they were calling him an American burger eater and abusing him, they were calling for Honda to come back. Honda had worse stats, by the way. Played way worse than Junior.
He just had the first good game. By the way, here's something I want to say very briefly. This is how you know that we've just got a bunch of children watching the game now. Every time a player has a good opening series, ZTR, LNZ, Honda, y'all crown them instantly. You don't even let this fucking one tournament play out. You just crown them already as amazing. And then you have the goal yourself to change. And 2 months later, go, I always thought he was trash. It's like, what is it? You got to stop hyping these guys up like that. It's fucking brutal.
Well,
you got to let them ease in and ease out.
Especially when you brutalise them when they're on the downslope immediately.
You build them up unnecessarily and then wreck them 20 times harder.
But since we've been doing fantasy moves today, here's what Fury need to go and do. And I know it's actually unlikely. Well, when I don't know how many times you've watched Pain Gaming recently.
I haven't seen him very much. I saw him play against Liquid, but I haven't seen him again aside from that. I never watched the NBA tournaments when it was them versus Triumph or whatever.
So they've got a player on their team, right? It's spelled Safi, but apparently it's pronounced safe. And I think this guy might be the best AWPer in Brazil. I think he's better than the AWPers on Oplano. I think he's better than KNG.
That's saying a lot. KNG's pretty
and
fucking
Henny.
good, yeah.
I think he's actually in terms of raw talent. And the mad thing is, he's 26. But I'm not making the Jax mistake again. I'm not saying he's too old. This guy was fucking insane.
Oh, by the way, I don't believe that concept actually myself. What I think we need to do is this, because I found the same happens in sports. Like MMA is a great example. The age can't be absolute. It's about the wear and tear. It's about the experience level. So in the same way as if I'll give you a class, I'll even stay with Brazilians. If you want a classic example from Brazil of someone who was insane, and he didn't get that old and he was just washed completely. It's fucking Shogun, that amazing heavyweight fighter. He was only 30 when he was just done completely because he had so much wear and tear from the wars. So I agree. Just like Valde was something like 24, 25 when he came in. As long as you haven't had you haven't been to basically a million lands and taken 10 years off your life. 25, if you're just starting in your first real year at CS, just take 3 or 4 years of that, make it 21. They've got a few years at least. Yeah, I agree. I don't think that's a concern. The problem is this: when Cajun B is 27, mate, he's played for literally 15 years or something mental. He's put mad hours on himself.
Yeah, and he's the problem again comes down to, there's all these weird contract snafus and insane buyouts and fucked up nightmares.
Brazilian teams are notorious.
Yeah, in the Brazilian teams. So I don't even know if he can ever get out of it. I don't know if he wants to. The Pain guys all seem to have a good system there, but they did fall short at the RMR. They were a little bit disappointing. They made it through the playoffs, but then essentially went straight out. And I think they're a better team than that. But that to me, if I was Furia, they need an AWPer. That's another reason why people were going, maybe Coldzera joins Furia. Absolutely wouldn't be the move. I don't even think it can happen on
more space for riflers, mate. They've got all their best players that you just described are all riflers who have a very specific style of play and work amazingly well together.
Yeah. So, they do need someone who can come in and be explosive on the AWP, and it wasn't Juniors. So that's a move I'd like to see happen. It's probably something that's in consideration, but if they get a chance, they should do it. And then the last bit of transfer news we'll talk about before we segue into viewer questions.
When we do the viewer questions, let me quickly get some water, but we can do this last one before.
Yeah, cool. Why not? We're getting DDoS by China. All the fun. So there's a report going around about Mertz.
I saw this, yeah.
Yeah, I figured you'd want to talk about this.
Here's all you need to know, fans. So the report says that Mertz is going to go to Astralis. When I earlier in this very episode made that offhand comment, you should see some of the people when I was talking about FaZe that Astralis is trying to sign. This is how bad it is. I wasn't even talking about that low down. I was talking about they're trying to sign people who were on Mad Lions a year ago or something, which in my opinion is ridiculous. Because again, you're fucking... If you're Astralis, here's what your shortlist should be. Write it down. Blame F, Config, Carrigan, Valde. It stops there, by the way. It stops there. If you can't get those 4, shut the fucking team down, mate. It's not Astralis anymore. Because again, this is actually, by the way, I'll tell you one little thing I managed to do. One of those minor victories you get every now and then as a journalist. Here's a good one for you, Rich. I did manage to convince a couple of players not to join Astralis. And all I said to them is that one thing people don't know is people think it's all fun and games with narratives, but because people have noticed, I don't just make the narratives up. I try to study the scene and see what narratives exist within it. And so I look for sort of like, I'm like a guy who tries to like weave the path of history, obviously. What I basically told them was this, and this line stuck with some people, and this is how I know some of them are thinkers, mate. I said to them this: of course you want to join Astralis. If I was Danish, I'd want to join Astralis. But the point is, I want to join Astralis with Glaive and Device. I don't want to join Astralis when it's Bobski, some guy from Mad Lions as well, maybe Dupree stays, and then like, what's that? I said that's not Mad Lions. That's like a better version of North, mate. And you're gonna find when you join that team, it's not only you're not gonna have Astralis type performances, etc., but the fans are gonna act like you're the reason why. And so some of them, by the way, I know it sounds mad because they've done a brilliant media job in Denmark. They've even made people's parents make you want to join the team. But what's mad is there are a couple of players who got it, who were like, you have a point there, actually. Like, if I'm in a good team now, just stick with the team I'm in now.
Yeah.
Because I believe these, by the way, I won't say this report specifically because I don't have any info on it. But like, put it this way, this report, which sounds like a joke, Mertz, who essentially has been like the Walking Dead at like tier 4 or something for the last few years. The point is, they're scraping the barrel, guys. It's like when they had to bring in Yugi and Snappy. When they have no one left to get, you have to put someone in the server. So if these other big names don't say yes, and so far none of them have, then you're going to have to sign someone like Mertz. And that shows you all you need to know about Astralis, the org. Who the fuck is the talent scout? Who is the person? What is the vision? What vision are you selling the players, that big name players go, nah, and you have to get Mertz?
Yeah.
This is a Yugi move, guys.
Yeah. Oh, so I mean, I'll credit the source on this one because it's not one I've seen.
Wasn't it some brand new guy?
Yeah. But with that said, obviously the caveat is
don't know how credible it is.
Yeah. We don't know how credible it is, but it made the front page of Reddit. People saw it, voted it, discussed it. So we'll do the same. The source is a guy called at Puffin CSGO. Puffin as in the bird. And he's got his own Medium article, and he said in that article, according to sources close to the team, the Danish AWPer Daniel Mertz is close to signing with the CSGO roster. Mertz currently plays for Nordavind and has formerly represented both North and Heroic, so he would be indeed completing the hat trick. For me, mate, it's just Astralis are at that stage now, and the fans haven't realised yet. You know, the fans are like,
they still think the train's going and they're going to get it back on track, aren't they? Exactly, yeah.
The fans are like the cockroach with the head cut off and the body hasn't caught up yet, right? Basically, this team is fucking done because it's a matter of time before it's Glaive and Ozipniks next.
It's when, not if. Basically, it's when, not if.
Yeah, and then at that point, if you think Dupree's just going to stick around for the lulls, he's going to explore his options too.
Yeah. By the way, just like we said about Robs earlier, here's the thing. Listen, some of them have been a little bit cunty to me, but I'll just say, as players, those players have earned a chance to all go elsewhere, spread out like a diaspora, and go and reinvent your careers. And I hope a couple of you have amazing success. I hope some of you, by the way, even if you don't have success, I hope you at least get like a Freiburg type career. You get to keep playing as long as you want. You get to still be around the pro scene. You get to get your competitive juices. You get some money. You deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, what's going to happen now is Astralis is essentially just going to be this revolving door, I think, of like Danish players. Smash
it, mate.
Yeah, smash a roster together, go to an event. Hey, look, it's Astralis. Hey, look at our share price plummeting. Hey, look, we're still here. Does someone want to buy us? Anyone, please, want to buy the brand? No, it's not really. Doesn't have that same luster, doesn't have that same shine. All right, well, we'll throw together another 5 Danish players. We'll go to another event. Oh, we're 9th to 12th again. Right, okay, right, well, it's just going to be that now. They're just in the cycle, the depressing end stage of an esports. I would even go as far as say it's an esports org, frankly.
Yeah. By the way, if you look at what they're doing in League of Legends, remember that is basically the only other game they properly have. Mate, they're in a terrible spot in both games right now. Like, I could really see a world where, as you're saying, put it this way, when on all those episodes last year, I kept explaining to people that Nihom's goal, and whoever's in charge now, is just to get out with as much as you can. It's to max it. It's like one of these crypto scams. You want to get as much as you can and get the fuck out before it falls apart. The problem is this, that window is fucking closing, mate. Like, this year is going to be, it's going to get bloody. It's going to get bloody this year.
I think he knows it. I might hit him up, actually. I'm starting to feel reflective and forgiving. I might hit him up and be like... He
doesn't even seem like the biggest cunt in CS now. That's how bad it's gone.
No,
and also, you know what?
Everyone's a cunt, mate. Who cares?
I said this already.
Fuck this business.
I said this, I think, on the Four Horsemen episode, that he privately was one of the only people who actually admitted that, yeah, of course, Flashpoint helped them get a better Louvre agreement. You know what? Believe it or not, that statement actually makes me think. Listen, I do think he's an absolute cunt, and I do think all the things I said were correct. But, like, on some level, there is something there to work with. It's not the same as just a stupid-ass evil businessman. There's, like, a little bit of nous there. He sort of has some self-awareness, if he can say that.
Yeah. So, you know, because, like...
It'd be an interview if you do it.
It would be fucked up if it, like, you know... If I like the fact they brought Astralis back. I thought that was a very good move. You know, that was a brand that had some history and pedigree, which, by the way, in an industry that's only 20 years old, history and pedigree and heritage and credibility, these qualities, when you can buy them and hold them in your hands like so much treasure, you must get them. Because the dickheads who come along, the splices of this world, don't have it, will never have it,
teams,
and never stick around long enough to achieve it. You see, when you can get that, you know, even if it's bringing back a brand that's been gone for a few years, we'll bring it back. We'll reference the old history. We'll reference the old teams. We'll get old players who were around from that time to be associated with the old. We will find continuity. Right, that's what the only thing that matters in esports, if you want to be a real sport, is that. Fuck fan pandering and we fill out stadiums.
I'll give you an example to make your point, right? This is where a fan who doesn't understand this point will be so lost by what I'm about to say. The brand, I'm surprised, still wasn't bought by one of the people who wanted to come into space. Instead of coming in and making a new brand, is SK Gaming, obviously. The second you buy SK, by the way, basically the original massive esports team, the history you connect with is fucking bonkers. And in Counterstrike of everything, you're instantly connected to like Heaton, Spawn, Valley, like fucking Get Right For It. Like, it's unreal. As you're saying, you can take what is essentially a totally new org and connect it into this like dormant lifeblood that will start pumping again. And as you said before, by the way, and as everyone knows about MRBR, all of a sudden those old fans even come back, or the fans who they heard the name before they're on. But I think that's the most underrated thing, because so many people want to be the cool guy with the new startup and the new brand. No, the coolest thing you can do actually is revive an old brand and do it well.
If I was at SK Gaming now, and I had enough scratch to do it, and I don't think this would take a lot of scratch, what I would do is I'd go and I'd get myself a Brazilian Valorant team. Brazil, it's popping off big time Valorant in Brazil, as you can imagine, and I would get like as good a Brazilian team, the best Brazilian team, ideally, and then you've just got that thoroughfare of, you know, old dog, new game, Brazilian excellence. That's what most modern esports fans associate with SK. That run, the Fallen era, mate, you've just fucking crushed it. You've just got one of the biggest fan bases in the world completely on side in one of the biggest emergent esports, using the history of another esport. And then if they get interested in that, turns out they can start reading up on all your old legacy stuff that you just alluded to. But no one does cool things in esports. They just hang around like a fucking elderly relative on a machine, don't they? So that's that. But yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much all of the
roster. Let's go get some water now. I just need a drink.
Yeah, go do it. I'll set up. Yeah, it is actually warm, isn't it? It's warm here now. Are you warm? Are you what, Sam?
I bought an air conditioner, mate. I'm all right, mate.
Are you turning warm into cold, mate?
I have, mate. I bought some warm to cold converters. I'm living a fucking dream.
Yeah, it's really weird, mate. The only warm room in my house, like unbearably warm. Like, I don't know if you can even see this if it's showing up on the light. Can you see the sweat?
Oh yeah, mate. I know. I bet you must be fucking boiling.
It's unreal. Because I have to put the lights on as well. So I just got this white fucking the heat off the spotlights, because the LEDs don't pump out light. They're not halogen lights or anything, but the heaters on the back, the heat blares out. Here's an interesting thing. Having a fridge. Did you know fridges, because it's hot at the back in it because of the electricity?
Yeah.
So I've got that going on in here. So this one room, which for some reason was already the warmest room.
UK?
Yeah, I went out. Like say, obviously, I went out when I had the skeleton incident. I went out earlier today, and it was nice. It was a classic British summer. Just melted ice creams. Perfect.
Broken families.
Yeah, broken families.
Just saying stupid shit that when
red-faced morons drinking fucking a can of Strongbow on a bench.
Some gammon trying to just fucking relate.
Yeah, the gammons were out, mate. I saw a woman, right? She was so big. She was like 3 of me sewn together, but like not just like fat, like just big, like one of those big people who like her arms, no joke now, were the size of my thighs.
The ones where it looks like 4 dinner ladies just ran into each other and formed a massive blob one with an arm. Like...
We are Dinnertron. Yeah, it was mental, mate. But she had really good tattoos. Like, and again, I'm obviously. I'm obviously one of those self-loathing working class people. You
probably didn't hurt. She probably couldn't feel fuck all.
Yeah, true. No, I mean, first of all, the needle technology required to pierce the hide.
How many needles did he go through? 5.
But anyway, but no, it was really good tattoos. Really good ink it was. And I thought, like a lot of the times they just have shit tattoos, don't they?
Oh, that's the most infamous thing. Ma'am, love ma'am. Great, mate. Yeah, great.
Like that story. I don't know if you saw that one with that person who they got their like granddad's ashes made into tattooing, and then had a tattoo with him on their back. Like,
that's weird.
Yeah, mate, you've gone too far there. Like, yeah, I don't even know what that is. It's some sort of like, it's not cannibalism, but it's on that spectrum, innit?
The only way that would the other thing about that story is there's something not just weird but stupid about that. Like, I'm expecting there's like a follow-up story 5 years later, like, and they developed, unfortunately, a very rare skin melanoma by putting ash into their...
full on. Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing, you idiot?
Yeah. Anyway, I'll do the viewer questions now. But yeah, it's been roasting me. I've been dripping, like I'm fucking sweating. I'm in like shorts. I'm in shorts and a t-shirt. And like, I was just saying to Sam,
board short.
Yeah, I was just saying to Sam, like, you can see the sweat ring around my neck. Like, I'm literally...
Dude, I don't know how you've done this. Can everyone else confirm this in the chat, right? How has Richard made it look like he never, ever did move house? Like, he looks like he's in the same exact room as when you were in Vegas. It's mental.
Because I got all the same exact stuff.
Have you done that day 9 thing where, eventually, like, that was one of the moments, you know what I'm talking about? Basically,
day
9 really was in his dorm room, but then when he got huge, they just made the room, like, the set look like his dorm room, and I was like, this is too far, day 9. You're making this dark, like some Black Mirror episode now.
Yeah, no.
What is this?
Yeah, that was weird, wasn't it? I just kept all the things.
It looks identical, I'm telling you, it's bad.
Yeah. Anyway, viewer questions. If you give us $50, I think it is, we do questions. We ask it any question and we answer it.
You know the fucking script by now.
Yeah, and basically what happens is when we enter the viewer questions, all the people who've come here just for opinions about CS start to leave.
And they talked about Cold Era yet? What about Cold Era yet?
Yeah. And you pay attention to that number down there and watch the slow decline as we spend another 30 minutes.
One other thing though, Richard, the one other factor I have noticed the rare times I opened the stream to check it's working, it goes like this. The one thing that also happens simultaneous though is because like about the last 10 episodes are like, don't know how many more we've got in us, boys, before we have to go for a long walk. There's also the people who are the real OGs who are like, stop hype train, gift 7 million subs. It's the only way we can save it. Like there's like, it's like the battling thing of like the lower viewership, but then the guy's like, I must single-handedly keep this alive. Like,
listen up, because I'm probably gonna I was talking yesterday, I'm gonna start extricating myself from work and just eventually end up some sort of semi-retired mess recording podcasts. I know in my hubris, I am going to get to the D-man stage. It's just a matter of when.
You are. By the way,
Yeah.
you do it ironically with Football Manager, but pretty sure, Richard, you're like, there but for the grace of God, go you know?
Yeah, no, it's a matter of time before I am literally screaming, this is a great indie game, turn-based strategy to like 15 people, because we all end up there. You all return to margin. You all go back to, the primordial fucking soup you clambered out of. So yeah, I'm
replying to Anders on Twitter, he won't even bother acknowledging.
Yeah, I know exactly. His wife will be there. Who's that Richard guy? Yeah, he used to be on telly. Yeah, we did E-League. Yeah, we did E-League together. Now he just shouts about the media are all lying. He's become like Alex Jones without the audience. Frogs were gay though, weren't they? So
anyway. The thing. Atrazine was a real thing. That's why you know the universe has a sense of humor. Because obviously there's plenty of things you could pick that are really fringe and out there, but that is the one that sounds like it's nonsense, but it's actually totally factually accurate.
I know. But his problem always was he was such a fucking dumbass in the way he would present. Even like if you heard even the most basic fact come out of Alex Jones, he would always embellish it like some ludicrous degree. That's all right. We can't even talk about him anymore. Well, so he doesn't exist. So whatever. It's all fine.
Right, just hit out like Stalin edited that guy or that photo.
Yeah.
Like,
it'll be us. It'll be us one day, Duncan. We'll be. No, but I was real. I used to have a podcast. You can't see it. It's been.
No, you didn't. I looked up the history. Jake Lucky won the Esports Journalist of the Award 2016, 2017, and 2019. Pretty sure.
I'm not Jake Lucky. No. Like just some Kafkaesque nightmare. Anyway. First Sock says, on I Hate It Here, you and Sam discussed aliens. We did. Extragalactic travel, the Fermi paradox, etc. What was I saying about it?
Like, did you believe in aliens, for example?
Sam
definitely does, because Sam's talking so deep in the weed and psychedelics. Right.
Yeah. Because it was in relation, the Pentagon said, like, those are UFOs in those videos.
Okay, right.
But they also said probably not aliens. Like,
yeah, of course.
For me, look. It's hard to get your head round, and humans probably shouldn't try, because let's be real. Like, we think it's a good idea. I'm going to build a bomb for a gender reveal, like we aren't
enough to handle it how we are.
Yeah,
like we can't in this world.
Yeah, like we're still getting brainwashed by fucking television. Yeah. I don't think we're ready for fucking intergalactic travel or to even think about what it would look like and how it works. But anyway, that being said, what I believe in my role as a fucking brain dead idiot is that how do you even process infinite possibilities in an infinite universe? The only logical answer, if you truly believe the universe is infinite with infinite possibilities,
then definitely eventually happen.
Then the only answer is yes, of course, there's intelligent life on another planet somewhere. What that would look like, you then get into the realm of, do the rules that apply on Earth, would they apply on a completely different planet? Like are there like undiscovered elements, like that would skew our periodical table and we couldn't comprehend? And then what if one of those undiscovered elements that we've never encountered before, what if that was the basis, like carbon is for us, that was the basis of all life on another alien planet?
It's like basically a million fucking sci-fi comics did these concepts. Like, there'd be one where it'd be like a 2000 AD issue where, you'd go to a planet, it's abandoned, the planet was alive, like some shit like that,
Yeah, it's why I always liked that, what's it called, Arrival. You've seen that one, right? Arrival. It's like a film about aliens.
Yeah, it's a banger.
Yeah, because that to me, like,
they were so alien. You mean?
Like, yeah, they were so alien, even to the point that their language didn't even make any coherent sense, right? Like they didn't even conceive of language in a way that we would. And that to me, there's been very few interesting depictions of alien life in movies. Generally, it's like, we're all still hung up on Star Trek. Like, they certainly would be humanoids, just blue. Like,
just with a big forehead.
Exactly. Yeah, just got a fucking 5 head for no reason. Like, come on, mate. Like, try a little bit. Like,
it's the same. But
here's a Cornish pasty on a cunt said he's an alien. Like, brilliant. Yeah. But whatever, So, like, you couldn't conceive of what the life. Communication would almost certainly be impossible. Any form of integration would almost certainly be impossible. So then you start getting to the question, like, what would it fucking matter? I think true alien life would be completely incompatible with everything we know. And also, we haven't even mastered talking to animals yet, have we?
No. Mate,
You
even
know.
though I said it derisively about Sam, I actually genuinely personally think like the world of psychedelics is way more interesting than aliens.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Psychedelics is something you can almost grasp it. You can't really, but it's like there's something real there. There's something amazing and interesting. It's not quite makes sense. There's something. It is alien in a way, but not. It's also part of the Earth. It's like that's fascinating to me. Like I think that's where people should put their attention.
Yeah, and you know, look, that right is a key component here. What we think of aliens, like, oh, it'll be so hard and we'll have this communication barrier, but eventually over time we'll break it down and we'll have relationships and we'll exchange technology and we'll appreciate each other's civilizations. No, you morons. You morons. Like, that's animals. Like, you start with animals. We know dolphins can think in linguistic sensibilities the same as us. We know they have these very big mammalian brains. Why the fuck can't we sit down and have a conversation with a dolphin, right? Till we crack that, what the fuck are you worried about space for?
That is a great point. If you can't literally get through to the dolphin, then what chance do you have with someone who doesn't have any of the same,
Yeah, might not even be a carbon life form. Yes. Might have literally zero in common, like things you can't even conceive of in terms of differences. Like, I'm not talking number of legs or, like, that's what I mean. Like, it's always wank when we do an alien. Oh, spider people. It wouldn't be spiders, would they? Like, it would be something completely inconceivable to the human mind.
Yeah, I agree.
That's why, and I know he's unpopular now because of his cat and that, right? But Lovecraft nailed what aliens are.
Oh, yeah.
He understood it.
Yes.
It is to even try and figure them out is to warp your mind. So yes. that he got what aliens are.
Yes.
Now, how he got there, not so cool, but he did get there, didn't he? So yeah. Anyway, back to the question. What are some things the two of you and Thorin? So it's Richard and Sam and Thorin, assuming he has an interest in the subject, would recommend reading or watching to delve deeper into aliens and the topic of space in general. See, I'm more aligned with you here, Duncan. I actually think the more interesting thing is consciousness and almost an interdimensional aspect to that consciousness. And therefore, I say fuck exploring outer space. Inner space, way cooler.
So the obvious answer, people don't watch some Terrence McKenna videos. Just type in Terrence McKenna, mushrooms, aliens, whatever. By the way, if you like it,
you got YouTube.
Yeah, if you like it and you've never seen it before, enjoy. You've got like about 500 hours to go, so we'll see you at the end of that. We'll see how you come up the other side.
No, and listen, I'll say this. This is a hilarious thing. When I was monitoring the fucking CSGO subreddit Discord, somebody had seen they were doing a struggle session for you, but without you present. And one of the mods on there was insulting all the retweets you were doing and saying, "Look at all the cringe, shitty retweets and these quotes and all of that."
Like
and one
what?
of them,
as in, just like a motivational quote or something.
Yeah, that type of stuff. Okay. And one of the ones they singled out was a Terrence McKenna quote, and they insulted it and said, "When you try to sound smart but aren't smart." Like the idea that Terrence McKenna
wasn't smart.
They thought Terrence McKenna was an idiot, a fucking a CSGO subreddit Discord moderator. Yeah,
and that's perfect if you're a fan, by the way. Terrence McKenna was essentially like one of those like polymath, like just like geniuses that can just comprehend like 10 fields at once and instantly integrate them all in unique ways that you've never thought of, while literally reciting for hours and hours what sounds like speeches that have been prepared in detail and written by writers. And he's coming up with it off the top of his head, high as fuck.
Yeah.
He was smoking weed during all those speeches. He even said it in a bunch of them.
Yeah. Let me tell you how much of a G he was.
You'll never be in the ring with this guy. I know myself from how hard it is to do a 10-minute video. That is unreal what this guy was able to do.
Listen, a lot of his theories don't even hold up like anthropological
ideas.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what Terrence McKenna is. This was a guy that could have a fucking mind-expanding idea about any topic you brought up with him. He just thought completely differently. In that sense, he was the ultimate genius, a true genius in that sense. And a genius isn't just someone who's excellent in a field. To me, a genius is someone who has an unbelievably developed brain and an incredible way of thinking that's, evolutionarily speaking, far ahead of your own. But anyway, he was great. But let me tell you how much of a G Terence McKenna was for anyone who wants to go watch some Terence McKenna shit. He died really young. And in his 50s, of a blastoma, a really unbelievable, like fucked up tumor in his brain that they couldn't operate on. It was so deep in there.
It's one of those like insanely unique ones as well.
Yeah, exactly. One of the rarest types of cancer you can get.
Yes.
And basically, like it was giving him seizures. And he did an interview, and he said the highest he'd ever been was from his first ever tumor-induced seizure because it fucked him up so bad it gave him visions. He was
Makes sense because you hear about the people who have the temporal lobe epilepsy often say they have like out-body experiences and stuff, right?
And in that same interview, people were saying to him like, well, like you're someone that's been very based in the real, and almost like the shamanic tradition. What are if it looks like you're gonna die because you've only got months to live? What are your thoughts about an afterlife? And he just said like, scientifically, it's preposterous, but I couldn't have foresaw everything in life, so why should I make any grand proclamations about what death's going to be like?
By the way, people don't know
that is cool dude.
That is what being sage is about. Because on the one hand, he clearly it wasn't just a mental case, but then he delivered the straight fire wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great angle.
So listen, not answering the question about UFOs and space and that. But definitely,
technically, he did claim he saw a UFO once on a mushroom trip. So
yeah, he did
that one. Yeah,
he did do that. And I've talked about my own experiences with DMT and ayahuasca. Meeting beings from other dimensions, blue people, blue electricity, like.
And the maddest thing is, even though they're not on Twitter, Richard somehow just blocked them all.
Yeah, no, that was what they said to me when I went there. They were like, and I didn't understand it at the time. They said in the future there will be a thing called Twitter, and you will be known as the blocker. I was like, what's happening? And now when I take DMT, I can't even talk to them. Blocked them. Or they blocked me.
Just says this tweet has been removed or something.
Yeah, this trip has been removed. Yeah. Anyway, cheers for the question, even though we didn't answer it first off. Thanks.
I think we gave a better answer because what we did is what I do in my AMAs, which is I just go, your question shit, I'm going to rewrite it into a good one that I want to answer, and then I just do it.
To be fair, if you watch Terence McKenna videos, the YouTube recommendations will take care of the rest.
For sure, yes. The rabbit hole you go down is definitely going to lead to UFOs eventually. Come on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, sorry, Sam, mate. It was aimed at you as well. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Good one.
Nah, I'm good.
All right.
I feel like we covered it last time when I hear you.
All right. Watch Doge asks, what is one other thing another game, i.e. Dota 2, has that you wish CSGO had, whether it's feature, developer intervention, etc. I mean, I've brought up the most recent example on a stream recently. If you just go and look at what is in Dota 2 now with the DPC integration, you click on the game.
Amazing, yeah.
You click on watch. You have all the DPC matches up top. Links to the VODs if you want, links to the demos, when it's live, standings. This is all in the game client, by the way. You don't even have to go to a separate website. And on top of that, and this is crucially what we needed in CSGO before everyone left, there's a monetization aspect where they got all of the teams in the DPC to provide the logo, some cool stuff, design some sprays, and it's got like a bronze, silver, and gold tier supporter pack. And if you get the gold tier, you get voice lines recorded by the players. And so, you get like, I've bought a couple of those. I've got the EG one because it's got Arteezy going, get out the jungle and let's group up and push and things like this. And obviously, when you're trying to communicate with fucking people that don't understand English very well, you have to like talk in very simple terms, and a voice line might catch their attention. There's a Team Secret one where I can't remember who it is, but he just goes, I'm dead. And it's just deadpan. It's hilarious. So if you get ganked and you get killed and everyone's going, oh, you shit cunt, you've died again, you can break the tension, bit of levity. And yeah, I'm dead. But the key point is you pay like £15 for that, and 50% of that goes to Valve, but the other 50% goes to the team, goes to the org. So it's actually worth having a Dota team all of a sudden, because there's, at least you're getting something back for it, as well as a cut of the international money and the DPC circuit money. we needed that in CSGO like 2 years ago.
I mean, mine's one that people, if they follow my content, will notice is a classic one. Sometimes, obviously, I'll spin it the other way. People often say to me, especially because they know I'm like a purist in games, like, how can you follow League of Legends? And I always tell them this one thing. I always start with this reason. I say, because you know what? League of Legends is the only game where I never have to wonder what if. Because the only scenario is if there was someone in Africa who was secretly god tier at the game. Every other major region in the world of the one we live in plays League of Legends, and to a degree that you've pretty much found all the good players. So that's what I wish we'd always had in CS, because I've been in Korea and I know what their work ethic's like. I've seen what China's like when they play a game, and I know every idiot's going to do what they always do. They're going to go, but we had Koreans and Chinese. You're not listening to the point. We had some Koreans and Chinese. I want all of them, because when you have the whole world play the game, you're just going to get the absolute peak fucking possible game. Yeah. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be what soccer is. It's going to be the height of what's possible. Yeah.
Since there's people of football comparisons, right? Right. Anyway, Bukowski asks, if you guys were scientists, yes, wanting to do esports-related research in a scientific field of your choice, what hypothesis would be the first you'd like to test? I'd like to do something. I'd like to find out once and for all what causes esports players to burn out and why it's different for other games.
It's a very interesting one, because here's one area, by the way, that doesn't make sense. Even when we use that term, burnout, that in itself doesn't make sense, Richard, because, for example, one of the most notorious jobs for burnout, right, is computer programmer. Dude, they are all just done at 25 or whatever. Like some of them can keep going a long time, you know. So that's, yeah, I agree. It is a complete mystery. Like, the mystery to me, though, goes even further. I want to just know this. Forget burnout. Why do people just get not as good a year later? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't follow anything to do with sports. Like, if you are, like, you were giving the Tom Brady example before, right? Yeah, eventually just his body will betray him. Yeah, that'll eventually force him to not be good. But as long as his health is there, listen, he might get 10% worse, he might get 20% worse, but he's not going to ever just get like 98% worse like, for no discernible reason while still wanting to play and still seeming in full health. And at age 28, like, that would never happen. So I agree. That's always been one of the mysteries to me. It doesn't really make sense, does it? It's almost like it saps your life force to be really good at a game or something, and you just lose something essential, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, you'd just get seized, wouldn't you? He would just be the fucking patient zero. He would, like, his drop-off's insane. Yeah. Do you remember how good he was when he was playing in Narvi?
No, it was no joke. The drop-off was like a month or two. I'm not even joking. If you go back and check it, it was an insane one. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be it for me. I think I don't know what that research would look like, because obviously, spoiler, not a scientist. But that would be the one. I think that's the great nut to crack. You got one?
I think, actually, what would I do? Because it has to be esports related. I think, I've got a good one, actually. I'll relate it actually back to that, like, Arrival theme of like language and how it interfaces with our minds. One of the things I've always been fascinated by is it makes perfect sense to me why a team like Astralis can be number one. I actually find it incredible that FaZe Clan was even within a fucking hair of being the best ever, which they were, by the way, guys. They were like right in all the semis and all the finals and one round for the major. Like, I want to know that, because essentially, right, I once made a comment. It's where, this is one of the things about being a writer and a thinker, is you're always working on the idea, but it means when you've got it very early on, you yourself don't know what you've got. So I once had a line that I said in an AMA, in I think like 2013 in League of Legends, where someone asked me, like, what would your super team be? And I made a team that was like, you know, like Diamond Prox, the Russian jungler, and like Frog in the mid lane, and like, I don't know, or maybe it's Faker, I don't know. And I had like a Chinese AD carry, and I had a fucking Korean support. And obviously every fan, I said in the comment, is going to think, well, they won't be able to communicate. And I said no, because in my opinion, if you actually had the greatest players ever who had like a fantastic mind for the game, essentially they would just speak the language of the game.
Yeah, would transcend. Yeah.
They would just somehow, because it's like what has happened in football. This is why I bring it up as an example, because football, as in European soccer, just is this. You can absolutely stack people from every country in the world, and somehow they can play better than 11 Italian guys who all have exactly the same defensive strategy. Now, that is incredible to me, because it does imply something like there is a kind of language, or like a base, like quarter language, that's a conception that transcends the fact that you come from over here and they're never connected to this and has this history. Like that, I would be fascinated. Essentially, I would like the scientists to go on like the sort of like the, what would that even be, like semiotics or something, like linguistics.
Yeah. Semiology would be a good thing. I mean, yeah, semiology, specifically the studying of signs and hidden meanings. But yeah, I agree. There is a shorthand that happens in great sports teams, isn't there? Like, they're all on the same page at the same time, and we know telepathy's not real. So how the fuck do they do it? And you're right, it's something in the game. It's there. It's like the fact that they all have a similar level of understanding. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see if you could pin that like ephemeral concept down. So yeah, give us the grant. Happy to do it. Right, next question. Benedict, please indulge my fantasy. Describe the potential 2015 forward NA scene in the most positive light if Brax hadn't been banned. Thanks, lads. I think probably what people don't realize is if the iBuyPower guys hadn't have been banned, I mean, unless you are saying you swap Brax and Skadoodle, but let's say it never happened, and what you would, and by the way, I am unequivocal now. I have made up my mind. Their lifetime bans are a travesty, and probably I just shouldn't.
Yeah.
And given the just sheer volume of match fixing that goes on in plain sight across all esports, for me to have even spent as long as I did to nail them to the wall, I don't even consider that one of my greatest stories. Now I consider that one of my greatest wastes of time. And actually, all it ended up doing was fucking over a bunch of people that probably, in the grand scheme of things, were some of the least deserving, because it was one transgression one time for barely any money, and everyone almost across the whole of esports, not just with match fixing, but in almost every aspect, are involved in a corruption, a conspiracy to basically fuck dumb fans out of fucking money on some level. So yeah, it was bollocks. But let's say it didn't happen. The problem you've got with that is that the gatekeeping that those guys did. Like, Dazed and Steel basically ruled the scene, and you had to have an in with them. One of the good things that's
why we got the CLGs of the world and those and the teams and the guys who became Optic and Team Liquid. Like, these guys, yeah, you're right. They were under the boot of those guys.
Yeah, and that means some talent would have developed, but you wouldn't have had the explosion. I know it was rough for a while, right? After the iBuyPower ban and NA, and everyone was like, "Oh, what does it mean? Will NA ever have an international team again?"
Yep.
I don't think that iBuyPower team could have won a major.
They wouldn't have, mate. They would have just been in like an inevitable disappointment. They would have had some good tournaments. Like, here's the problem with that question. It's why
they didn't even have one of the better finishes. I mean, that was like the complexity in like 2013.
Yeah.
Right?
Here's the problem, right? When the people say that, because it's always about Brax and Steel, like, you all have made this guy into a bodhisattva or something. Like, he wasn't that insane. Like, I'll tell you right now, this is going to break a lot of hearts. Elige at his peak is better than Brax ever was or would have been. I'm sorry. Elige is a really special player. He could be European, put it that way. That's all you need to know about fucking how good this guy is. Like, or even, you can have twists when he was at his peak. He was unreal. Here's the problem, right? You all really believe like he would have won the majors or would have like radically. Basically, the meme that you guys are is that meme where people pick any topic and it's like if they'd have made like Zelda 7, and then it's that joke where we're all living in like a fucking space colony where it's that circle. Like, y'all are too much with it, guys. Like, as Richard says, like, you even have to consider maybe there was positives that came from it. Maybe it cleared out the deadwood and it made a totally new generation climb up, who, spoiler, became teams like Team Liquid and Optic and Cloud9 that won the major. Notice none of those players are legacy players, pretty much, except for Skadoodle. Like, they're basically all like old, like new blood who had to come up after this. So you can never know in that sense. Sometimes like the scene has to die off to burn out the deadwood, and then it regrows anew.
Yeah, and so in that sense, it would have been great to see Brax do well.
It would have been great career, for sure.
It would have been great to see his career and how it would have panned out. But I think the spoiler is, he's probably on a decent NA team, but maybe not even the best NA team, because I agree. It's hard to answer because obviously you don't know who Brax would have played with, who would have developed him, who would have helped him, what kind of opportunities. But, Brax was a special generational talent, but like in all things sports-wise, the phenoms from like 10 years ago aren't the same as the phenoms we get today, is it? If you go back and you look again, we use football as examples all day. You pick a young breakout player, an amazing player from the 1950s, and you compare him to someone in the 1990s, and then you compare like a player like Foden at Man City to what was considered a phenom in the 90s, you realise that the science, the progression, the development, the inherited generational talent, all of that stuff filters down. And what you get is, the peak. So I think in esports, it happens a lot quicker. And, I think, like, I agree with Duncan. I think Elise is a special kind of one-off talent. And I even think in a way, I think Stewie's had a tough time in his career. But I think when Stewie broke on the scene, I think he was like a Brax type level of character. The NA has so many good FPS players. It's always been teams, infrastructure, and commitment and greed that has broken the NA scene apart. So I don't know if that is what you were hoping for, but it's probably the truth. Right, last few. Reykjavik on Steam, as someone who's lost interest in CS and CS esports of late, any tips and tricks on the Valorant scene? I mean,
I'm looking for myself, mate. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I mean, I watched some of the LAN. I think I wanna do some stuff around that, but yeah, I mean,
I'll give you a black pill if you don't know this, because a lot of people won't actually. I've mentioned it too long ago. Listen, if Valorant ended up being a really good game, I might cover it as a journalist, etc. But I will say, bearing in mind right now, it's still got a lot of uncertainty and it might just flail out in a few years like Overwatch. My problem is this. A lot of fans don't get this. They see people, I mean, by the way, not many of them, even a lot of them got fucked, but they see some CS talent transitioning over, don't they? I can tell you right now, Richard Lewis and Thorin will never be allowed to work an event in Valorant as talent. So if you're hoping for that, forget it. Because, by the way, I'm just going to tell you the black pill. I basically was told as much through back channels, through the Flashpoint project, because remember, they did that thing called Pop Flash, which is a little Valorant tournament. And all I'm going to tell you is, but the reason I know I wouldn't be allowed to work in it is they wanted way tamer people not to be allowed to work, mate. So it's like, again, this is why you don't want the game devs to be the ones in charge, because as bad as you might think Valve are, at least they're laissez-faire. At least they're laissez-faire.
Yeah, I mean, Activision Blizzard did that to me with Overwatch.
In one of them, I'm sure.
Yeah, all I was going to do was sit in a chair, but when E-League did that Overwatch Cup, one of the stipulations to get in the contract was Richard Lewis cannot be anywhere in the... Not the host, not the interviewer, nothing. He can't. He's not allowed. And the reasons varied all over the place. Criticism of Heroes of the Storm didn't go over particularly well, if you can imagine that. Was right about that one again, of course, but whatever. Tips for Valorant, just enjoy it, mate. Like, best way to get into an esport, mate. Religiously watch the games, watch the shit ones, watch the good ones, so you get an appreciation about when you know you're watching something good. You have to watch those grimy 4 a.m. fucking CS games with absolute no-namers to really appreciate what you're watching when you're fucking watching Major. And find a coverage site that works for you. I know that's all been up and down because they had all that drama over at the Spike where the owner was just doing cocaine and prostitutes or some mad fucking story, and no one got paid and everyone got fired. So it looks like there's going to be a little battle for which coverage site's going to be the best. There's a few out there right now. I can't remember the official one. It's like VLR or Valor GG. I don't know. Anyway, go check that out and find a site that works for you and check in on it every day, and eventually the rest will take care of itself. Rez, who do you guys want to win the major?
Oh, that's a tough. And listen, unfortunately for that one, it's not actually that sexy a question for me, because here's the problem with majors, right? Unless there's a Team Liquid at the last major is the obvious one, who have done like everything right and they're in position, and it's like they almost deserve that dreaded word to win one. Unless it's that, I always revert to my usual one, which is if there's a mixed field, I just want the individual players to get their due. So at the moment, the obvious one's simple. I want to see the best player ever just win a major. That's the obvious one. Whether Navi's the best or not, that would be very satisfying. In the same way, by the way, as if FaZe had won that major, I would have been satisfied to see Nico win a major and Guardian win a major. Like these Carrigan. So I always just want the great players to be acknowledged, not least because I know that the really dumbass fans will never give them their due if they don't get the ring.
Yeah, I mean, for me, mate, I can't get on board with that because just the repulsive behaviour from Navi fans. I hope Navi make it to the major. I hope they have an incredible run, and then I hope the team just fucking implodes and plays shit.
Who are you going to pick then?
It's really hard to say. I want one of these teams that have like prevailed during the online era and have treated the game with the reverence and respect it
so
deserves.
I'll give you a short list. So that we're talking like Gambit, Heroic, maybe
that was
Big,
the one I was going to say. I'd like
Furia. These are teams that all treated it seriously.
Yeah, it's Heroic would be the one I would pick. Or Gambit. I think Gambit. Like Gambit are in that weird world that we were in with Dota, where like Team Secret was the best team in the world, hands down, battering everybody, and then the international never happened, and now they're not.
Yes.
And that might happen at Gambit. They might have peaked a bit too soon for me.
I'll give you a cool storyline for Heroic. It would be, first of all, what an insane career turnaround for Cadian that would be. But more importantly for me, in a world where, think how depressing that Astralis conversation we had about 2 hours ago was. Yeah. Imagine if a fresh crop of fucking Danish talent come through and win the major. Now you can, if you're a Danish fan, by the way, now you don't have to be trapped into some fucking toxic relationship with the Astralis brand. You can just love those guys.
Be very good for the scene in that sense.
I agree.
So that's something else to like. But obviously G2 for my boy Carlos, and the fact that he spent big and had a dream and all, and you know, was still throwing money around when everyone was saying you don't want to do that, you know. So yeah, I mean that'd be nice. But I think it for me it would be a cooler story if it went to a team that, you know, just weren't essentially on anyone's radar. Because let's be real, you know Heroic are a good team if you're a CS fan, but no one I've never seen anyone say Heroic are going to win this tournament. Never.
No, true.
You know, and so it'd be great to see them get to a major and win it. But again, I think like Gambit probably peaked too soon, and the sad reality is it's probably going to be like some team that's not even in the top 10 right now. Like, I'll just tell you, be prepared for the darkness to descend when a NIP win it in Stockholm, mate. I'll buy you a drink. I will console you. I will be a shoulder for you to cry on. Mate, just be prepared, mate. Be prepared. Because we'll get fucking wrecked on socials, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, so just telling you that people are saying there's no way. That is so much more possible than you guys are given credit for, you know, but whatever. Right, here we go. I think this is the last one. Oh no, there's 2 more. What is the cutest animal in your opinion?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Like the obvious one's just a dog, just a really good looking dog.
Yeah,
I like dogs. Can't go wrong with a dog.
Can't go wrong with a dog, mate. But no, I was gonna say, see, the fucked up thing is I always liked otters. And
they're all right.
Yeah, but then like when you actually, they look great when they're playing with like a ball and swimming and doing cute hand things.
And they go and fucking ham though.
Mate, so here's some mad shit you probably didn't know about otters. I mean, first of all, they're just noisy cunts. Like, I mean, they are that. So immediately, you know, on the cuteness scale, if you're like if you're an animal that's an 8 or a 9, if you never shut the fuck up and you're screeching all the time, it's like cockatiels and cockatoos and all. Like, shut the fuck up, right? Blanket over the cage. You know, they're just permanently on, permanently wired. So that's a problem. But then otters stink of fish.
Oh, of course, yeah.
They've got this weird oily, fishy aroma that they exude to make them like aerodynamic in the water. So first time I actually got up close to a real fucking otter, I was like, fucking hell, this thing fucking pems.
Why are you saying that like you're around otters all the time? Like, listen, first time I got up with them, you know, in the fucking bank when I was like, what are you doing?
No, just having the opportunity to see an otter.
Is this what Wales is like? Were all the stories true? Were you just out there with fucking otters?
Yeah, you couldn't do it to an otter, mate. You know, come on, be real. But yeah, no, I can't even do that joke. It's fine. But yeah, no, just someone says, hey, do you want to see an otter up close? And you go, yeah. All right, I do. Yeah, that's all right. I'll do that. You know, Sim, I know this is like mental, but obviously if I had a chance to hang out with some gorillas, I'd definitely do that, mate. I know I might get my head stoved in and just get bashed to death, but I'd still I think I'd be all right, actually. I think I'd fit in. I think I could be one of the boys. So
the correct answer was Pronax.
Yeah. Anyway, Thanks for this is from Orky. Thanks for all you do. We as a group appreciate the effort and passion that you bring to our Saints. Not even a question, just a nice statement. Thanks for that. And then here's the last question. Zumba, I hate the way as well you've paid us a lovely compliment. I'm just breezing through it because it's the end of the show. But, you know, life is like that sometimes. I do be like that. Zumba. For Richard, if the party is over, why have you bought that massive bottle? This is from last night's stream dunk that I accidentally bought. I've still got it here. I don't know why. I'll just show it to you. I bought a bottle of whiskey and it was expensive. And I thought it was expensive.
That's like you've become a meme of yourself. Like,
I know.
This is. I've just got a little bottle, just one little bottle before bed. Like,
yeah, I know.
I know.
So 4.5 litre bottle at fucking.
You missaw the size of it or something. It was 10 times bigger or something.
No, because I saw the money and then I didn't see the fucking size. For some reason, it defaulted. 4.5 litres, the biggest size. I thought it was weird because when the fucking delivery driver turned up, he was red-faced at this massive box. Right. Said, you must have the wrong house, mate. I've not ordered anything of that size. He went, oh, shit, right, sign for it. Thought I might have been sent something by an esports company, you know.
Oh, this was supposed to go to a Mr. Leigh Smith, courtesy of D-Man.
Yeah, you open it and it's just a fucking, you know, third in the Football Manager streamer competition award. But anyway, yeah, and then I just had a 4.5 litre bottle of whiskey, so that's just my life now. I've got to get through that eventually, I guess. So, you know, I'll give it a go. Yeah, there you go. That was the show. Said it was going to be short, and then it wasn't. And then we rambled a lot and talked about things that we probably have to cut out. I don't even know where the lines is anymore. Again, who cares? Won't be my problem soon. So,
right, Sam's got a week to edit it. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, 2 weeks now. Remember, because we're for 2 weeks now. Yeah.
True.
So let's do shout out to the sponsors, of course. Obviously, go check them out. I think they've got some exciting news coming. So I know it, obviously, but I can't say it because I don't know if I'm tipping the gaff too early. So I'm not going to. But watch that. You know, obviously, watch that space. Just support. They're cool. Check out their content. Go to the YouTube channel. They're awesome. Obviously, NordVPN as well. Get a VPN. You know, you can fucking game the system with Netflix or whatever it is the kids are doing these days. Go to nordvpn.com/RLS. You get up to 70% off. It's a great product. And obviously, shout out to our patrons. We have a Patreon account. People pay us money for this podcast. And the ones that pay the most get their names read out. $100 patrons: Jerky's Minion, Marcus Kiumpa, Hannah Maru Alice, Benakagi, Carve, Tobias Bernasconi, Flacksmith, J-Dubs, Cathal, Benedict, and Will the Weed Wrangler. And I'll say this, all of those names, by the way, they've barely changed. Like, I think those people have been there since the start. This is like episode 159, and these people have been basically paying $100 all of that time. Like, so trust me, in these hard times, you know, I know that's a hell of an endorsement. It means a lot. And obviously it means a lot to our $50 patrons, all of our patrons. But these ones are paying more, so they get more praise and love. Reykjavik on Steam, Sad Sawar, Watch Doge, BP420, Alex C, Miss Alcoholic, Zarathenia, Echo, Rez, Lonnie, Gerhan Kaya, Fursock, Goody Woody, Norwegian Clamai, Bacon, Carter, Earhammer, Can of Pasito, Dancer Master, Adam Ox, Nolan, Judas, CMAC 1991, Zumba, Petty Grievances, Tim Frost, Bukowski, Frankie, J-Ray, and Robert Johnson. That was By the Numbers. We'll probably be back next week. You know the drill. Watch the space. Watch the skies. The aliens aren't coming, but watch them anyway. And until the next episode, take care. Bye.